And so that'll take me 5 or 10 minutes and I'll be right back. So maybe pretend you can be on the phone away. Great. So let's turn it over to Dana and get the show started. Dana, thank you.
You're very welcome. I note that Jesse Olsak, representing the Director of the Division of the Budget, and Chris Curtis, representing the Commissioner of Taxation and Finance, are participating in the meeting via video conference from the New York State Division of Budget Conference Center at the Capitol Building, room 131 in Albany. Note that Andy Sanfilipino is participating by phone and will not count for quorum. Notice of the location has been made public, and the public has the right to attend and observe the proceedings from that location.
I have to apologize. I have to apologize about this because while I was on vacation at the Jersey Shore, I had a bicycle accident and cracked some ribs and broke my left foot. So I've been pretty much confined to home.
Oh my gosh, Andy, this is good entertainment for you then, right?
That's right. You guys and the Jets and the Giants keep me entertained.
I was saying not as good, Diana, as the fourth quarter of the Jets Bills game last night. That kept Indy up.
Let me just tell you, we deserve to lose. Don't worry. The Jets
okay,
deserve
for those
to
of us that are not sports fans, I'll just take your word for it. How about that?
Yeah, the Bills definitely deserve to lose that one.
And most important, Andy, I hope that you're on the mend. I hope you're on the mend, most importantly. Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right, let's go.
Diana, I just want to note that Chris has not arrived yet for the 9 o'clock HFA, but David Gonzalez is participating from Albany with Jess.
Okay, great. Thank you for that correction. I will ask for motions and seconds. So for MBBA, TSFC, Audit and Governance, I'll ask for motions and seconds to call to order the meetings of MBBA, TSFC, and of their Audit and Governance committees. Can I have a motion to open the MBBA, TSFC meetings?
So moved.
Second? I will now ask for individual votes from each MBBA, TSFC board member. Chairman Adams?
Aye.
Mr. Olsak?
Aye.
Mr. Gonzalez?
Aye.
And Ms. Miller? Can I have a motion to open the MBBA TSFC Audit Committee meetings?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
I will now ask for individual votes from each MBBA TSFC Audit Committee member. Chairman Adams?
Aye.
Mr. Olsak?
Aye.
Ms. Miller? Can I have a motion to open the MBBA TSFC Governance Committee?
So moved as Ken.
Second?
Second, Jesse.
Great. I will now ask for individual votes from each MBBA TSFC Governance Committee member. Chairman Adams?
Aye.
Mr. Olsak?
Aye.
And Mr. Gonzalez?
Aye.
Great. I turn it over to you, Ken.
Thanks a lot, Diana. First item of the Audit Committee agenda involving MBBA and TSFC is the approval of the minutes from our meeting back on April 10th, 2023. That was the Audit Committee meeting. Absent comments from the MBBA and TSFC Audit Committee members, hi everybody, I'll deem these minutes approved. Next item on the Audit Committee agenda today is a resolution recommending the approval of the administrative budget request and financial plans for fiscal 24. Darrell Johnson is going to present this item. Darrell's going to be doing the back up and down to the table, back and forth to the table like 4 times today, 3 times, to present the agency's various budget proposals. Good morning, Darrell.
Good morning.
Get into your 10,000 steps in this budget. Coming back and forth to the table.
Good morning, everyone. So today we're going to present the administrative budget and financial plan for fiscal year 22-23. Each year we bring to the board the administrative budget requests and financial plans. You said 23-24. Here we bring the plans and the administrative budget requests detail the necessary funding to pay for operations for our 5 agencies for the upcoming fiscal year. We typically receive input from all departments and try to meet each department's needs for the upcoming fiscal year, but being mindful of limiting the overall. financial plan which follow the administrative budget provide a snapshot of our current estimated future net revenues that we need to fund our operations. One thing I want to point out is it's important to understand the cost structure for our. We have three methods of allocating our costs. The first is cost allocation. And when we hire new employees, there's a salary allocation table that's completed, and this detail for each of the agencies their work. When an employee works 40% of the 20% of their remaining agencies, the salaries will be so allocated. The second way that common core.
We cannot hear anything in Albany.
We couldn't hear anything either.
Daryl, your mic is on.
Yeah, Daryl's mic is on. Hold on, thanks for the hint here. We're gonna check with our IT guys, because
But Jesse, you can hear us, right?
We can hear you now, yeah.
you know, let's try an experiment.
Turn off your phone.
See if this one works better.
Hi, can you hear me now? Hello?
Vaguely.
Right, any better, Andy?
That's a little better, yes.
Okay. I'm not sure what the last thing you heard, so I'll just go over the cost allocation that I just spoke to. So we have three methods of allocating costs. One is our salary allocation, where we onboard employees. They typically fill out a salary allocation table, which details how they're working. The person spends 40% of their time working on SONYMA, 40% on HFA, and 20% on the remaining agency. Their salaries will be so allocated. Were you able to hear?
Yes.
Great, okay. And then we have a common cost allocation where we break out common costs such as rent, office supplies, and some IT costs. Those are split 50-50 between HFA and SONYMA, and then if necessary, allocated to the remaining agencies. And then we have direct costs, direct charges. Those are costs that are specific to one agency. So if we have a bond closing for HFA and there's a legal bill related to that bond closing, it'll be charged just to HFA. So those are the three ways we allocate our costs across the agencies. I'm going to pause here and let Stephanie go over some of the changes or variances between this year's budget ask and last year's budget. Let me introduce Stephanie. She's Stephanie Chichilla. She's our budget manager, and she works every year to help pull this whole budget report together. So she's very instrumental and helpful to me in getting this organized and put together so we can present today. So Stephanie, if you can go over some of the variances. Sure.
And Stephanie, good morning. Let's do a sound check and make sure that microphone is okay.
Can you guys hear me?
We can, but the question is, Andy, can you hear Stephanie?
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect. Good morning, everyone. I'm going to go over a couple of the significant budget items. Let's start with the salary request, which increased by 7.7% in accordance with the ratification of the union contract and the MC salaries. We have the pension fund, 2.8% based on the estimated contributions calculated. We have IT maintenance, which increased by 9% for security protection. And we can look at.
Right after IT maintenance, we lost audio in Albany.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect. We're moving on to extraordinary expenses. We've increased the New York housing search budget to upgrade and improve the search engine, which will also assist to collect demographic data, such as family size, composition data, and the need for accessible. We have 1.1 million for a benchmarking software, collect and analyze information on the agency's property code, use of energy and its costs. This will aid in assessing if they're complying with state and local requirements and thereby identifying properties that may require support from our sustainability programs. And lastly, we have a 1.5 million budget for the transition to the cloud infrastructure. And this will eventually eliminate the need of the physical data center and disaster recovery sites.
Great, thanks, Stephanie. So I'm gonna go back real quickly to the actual budget. The total budget act for this year is 107.5 million, up from 99.9. Ordinary expenses are 101.9 million. Extraordinary expenses, well, Stephanie actually mentioned extraordinary expenses. Those are the New York Housing Search benchmarking and the IT cloud infrastructure. Those are, we're asking for 5.6 million. So again, the total budget is 107.5. The ordinary expenses are up 2%, and the additional 5.6 million is for the extraordinary expenses. As a service organization, most of our budget is salary related, salary benefit, makes sense. The remaining 47% is primarily services we purchase or procure to run our agency. The remaining part of the administrative budget detailed expenses by agency, percentage of current year budget consumed, budget projections through 2027, and the assumptions used in the budget calculation. And then finally, toward the end of the report, we have the financial plan for each one of the agencies. The financial plan, they give details on how we expect to fund the administrative budget. Most of the agency's revenues are restricted by contract or pledged to bondholders. There are, however, unrestricted revenues that are available to pay administrative costs of running the agency. For HFA, these are the fees that HFA charges on a bond deal, typically 2%. We also charge 25 basis points on the service fee, and we also receive tax compliance fees when a project pays off. Those typically run about $10,000. SONYMA operates a little differently. It operates on a spread where revenue is generated from the difference between the interest and the bonds and the interest we receive. That's allowed to be taken out for administration. AHC does not have a dedicated revenue stream, so as HFA subsidiary, HFA picks up the cost of the administrative. MBBA charges 55 basis points on its outstanding bonds that will cover administrative fees. And Tobacco Settlement Finance Corporation receives tobacco settlement funds. Those range between
You're cutting out on us.
Say again, Andy?
You're cutting out on us. Well, you're cutting out on me, so I don't know what everybody else is.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Daryl, I suggest if you could just speak a little bit slower, I think that could help. It's just on the audio, not being in the room, it's harder to understand. So just a little bit slower. As a fast speaker, I know how hard that is to do.
The fee structure, well, not quickly, I'll go with the fee structure for our revenue generation. HFA generates fees through charges that it charges to its projects. It typically charges 2% on bond deals, 25% of the service fee, and then tax compliance fees that run about $10,000 per year. And then those are generally charged at the project. SONYMA makes a spread from the difference between the interest it paid on its bond and the interest it received on its mortgage. That spread is restricted, however, a small amount is allowed to pay, pay administrative expenses. AHC does not have a dedicated revenue stream. As an HFA subsidiary, HFA picks up those costs. MBBA does have a dedicated revenue stream. It's a service fee that it charges when outstanding bonds. Those typically are about 55 basis points. Settlement Finance Corporation receives tobacco settlement revenue each year. They're about between 350 to 400 million. That we receive in perpetuity. A small amount of that can be unrestricted and used. In summary, we believe that the agencies collectively will generate sufficient revenue to fund the administrative budget plan for fiscal 23-24, and we respectfully ask the board to approve this request. Are there any questions?
Darryl, I'll start. I just have a question about the extraordinary expenses, and it's sort of just a question about that as a category. Because I see, like, in prior years, we don't, but looking back, right, 23, 20, this mechanism, you know, this, hey, let's, yeah, so that's where I'm going. Is this a new thing to claim that, I'll call these one-shots, you know, that these one-shots that come up in a fiscal year, rather than allocate them to an OTPS line or, I mean, they're not personnel to look like, but they could have been in an OTPS expense. And so what's the reasoning for pulling them out, creating this new, you know, jumps off the page number of 5.6, right? You could have buried them in the OTPS, and probably would have. Seriously, like what's the reasoning just in terms of how you do the budgeting? Because I haven't seen this before.
Well, we typically do this. Like ongoing every year expenditure that we ask for. And these are typically for a new initiative. This regard does not meet the gap for the county definition for expenditure. I use what we appropriate and not reoccurring. So
These don't meet that criteria,
they
right?
don't.
Like, do you remember if Sandy happened, that little storm? They had a lot of, you know,
Now that would be extraordinary.
right, acrobat type of expenses, right?
Upgrading your IT is not really considered.
But is there the risk that some of these extraordinary expenses in the future, you know, they will create ongoing operating costs? Right? Like you go buy something, but then you have to maintain it. And so all of a sudden we'll see an ongoing cost associated with an expense this year in future years.
Absolutely, that's something that probably there probably will be an upkeep to make
Or licensing fees or
licensing fees, et cetera. But and that would.
okay.
What is the New York houses? I think Stephanie gave a summary, maybe,
I can remember, we have an existing sort of website that we use for people that want to go look and see where there are available apartments, and this is a read to it. It's a rather old and not very efficient one that we have, so we're going to redo it to the New Yorkers and better access.
So that's used by both DHCR and HFA.
Yes, it would be used by everything we finance would go with that.
So the amount of money that's going to pay for this as extraordinary expense, which of our agencies are paying?
Historically, it's been paid for by partners.
Right, but Sunny May, for example, has nothing to do with this. I'm assuming Sunny May.
Oh, I know. I
Concerned about, you know, I
Verify if being allocated for the same thing we talked.
yeah, I think some of these things like benchmarking, some of these things are really related to, I think, HFA and DHCR primarily. And I just would like for the Sunny May budget to not be charged.
Oh, we can check on that.
And I guess I bring it up later, but I think the one thing, I think this is an interesting how it kind of Ken and Alex together. Would be good to understand sort of what the technology roadmap is for the agency so that it actually becomes like more of like included in ongoing budgeting as opposed to like bringing it up as extraordinary. So that benchmarking could be included in the HFA budget, for example. Looking at technology needs today and then over time, because I think, 10% growth and maintaining SAP, like HTC, for example, has an online application for their borrowers. Like, is that something that we're into? I'm just trying to understand where we're going, and then we can sort of create a budget, I think, to match that over time.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm okay that between Betsy and Tom and folks, we have, and since we got Tom on, gosh, how long you've been here now? 2 years. We have really sort of worked hard to think about the integration of all the different systems and we can't really integrate them all, but like in terms of platforms we're using and being a little smarter about all of that work. So you'll see more of that as time goes on, and we're being more strategic in what we're doing, how we're doing it.
Part of our function, you can see, there's about we typically look at the agency beneficiary funds. You've heard me, right? I
Yeah.
heard you.
We'll check on that. Okay.
So extraordinary expenses includes unanticipated expenses.
Not unanticipated, but they're more
Unanticipated.
like one-time
Yeah.
larger expenses that aren't sort of ordinary course annual. As sort of Daryl was saying, it may be that after we purchase the software, we then have to work in the maintenance into our operating budget, but that would be more of an ordinary expense. The extraordinary would be the upfront capital. So. Other questions? I'm now playing a little pen. Okay, Diana.
I'd like to thank the staff for their work. This is Jesse from Budget. We understand and are supportive of approval of the budget.
Thank you, Jesse. Appreciate that.
Okay, now before the MBBA and TSFC audit committees is a resolution that was transmitted in connection with this item. Assuming the first and second previously recorded, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried and the resolution adopted. Ken?
Okay, so now we are at the approval of the internal of the 2022 audit reports, and Heidi is going to present. Okay.
Anim, are you on?
Yes, she's.
Oh, great. Sorry, turn all the way. Turn all the way. Good one.
So we have two reports that were completed during the last 2 quarters with the management response. So one is a typical routine audit that we perform when we assess effectiveness of the management implementation. And we statistically look at the number of recommendations, the degree of their implementation, and then we can mark them as complete, in progress, or delayed, given the objective business. So we did it for 2022, and during 2022 there were 5 audits performed, from which 2 required list of actions from management. And from this 2 together, the complete recommendations were 12%, in progress were 80%, which is a good, and delayed were 8%, which we determined was based on objective basis. So we anticipate that the parts that are in progress will be completed toward the end of the year, or maybe next few quarters of the next year. So this is the follow-up summary. If you have any questions, I'm ready to cover.
Yeah, I have a question. What will this do? What are the current salaries, and then what will the new salaries be based on these increases?
Can you repeat again?
I think maybe you're asking that about.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were on item number 3, talking about the resolution approving the 3% increases.
Audit, follow-up audit.
We're still on the audit agenda, Andy.
Oh, I apologize. Never mind.
We'll come back to that.
Okay. And second audit was an audit of office physical safety and security. So it was an unusual audit we performed based on risk factors we analyzed during risk assessment. And we came to conclusion that areas of office fire and safety, employee safety, equipment and supplies, server room safety, and building access areas need to be improved. So we have a list of recommendations, and management accepted them. There is an actions planned by management in order to address this areas, and we will follow up on them after it. So if you have any specific questions, I'm ready to comment.
Funny, sorry that I had to step out for a second.
We're on the, no, that's right, we're on the follow-up review of the 22 audit reports, item 2. And it's you, and sort of covering office safety and that's it. We didn't sort of introduce anything.
When I left, Daryl was explaining how he was going to burn through $105 million for 12 months.
With the proper office safety.
As long as it's under your watchful eye. Okay, thank you very much. I think I've caught up now.
Any questions?
Diana?
Let me take it away here, okay? Now before MBBA and TSFC audit committees is a resolution that was transmitted in connection with this item. Assuming the first and seconds previously recorded, all in favor, please say aye.
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 The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Thank you. Great. And I want to do number 3 too. So
Yeah.
Present that vote, Diana. Will you do 3 also?
The other one also, Diana.
We're going to do okay, we did both of them. Okay, the audio, I have to say, listening it from here, it's hard to hear everybody. Now before the MBBA and TSFC audit committees is a resolution that was transmitted in connection with this item. This is relating to the approval of the internal audit report on office safety and security. Assuming the first and seconds previously recorded, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Item on the agenda is the approval of independent audit contracts with Ernst & Young LLP, formerly known as BMY.
Yeah, this is just an extension of that contract and an increase in their fees of 2% 1 year, 2.5%.
I think, Alex, in the board materials, there was an attractive PowerPoint done by the marketing team at BMY.
That'll be later.
Okay.
That's their annual,
That's their pitch for another year. Yeah. And their fee went up, I know.
yes,
Must be inflation,
2%.
sweeping the nation.
Okay, Diana.
Okay. Assuming now before the MBBA and TSFC audit committees is a resolution that was transmitted in connection with this item. Assuming the first and seconds previously recorded, all in favor, please say aye.
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 The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Remaining items on the agenda this morning are information items. First, a financial statement update for the second quarter fiscal 23, third quarter fiscal 23, and the first quarter of the new year we're in now, which is fiscal 24 for AHC. Number 2, there's a budget and financial plan for the second quarter of fiscal 23 and the first quarter of 24, also for AHC. And then there is this, I guess, is where we pause for Ernst & Young to present their audit plan for the new year. Is that right, Alex? Excellent. Morning.
Kind of a brighter presentation that we included. Typically call our audit plan each year. So here again, to present our audit plan for fiscal 23 audits for all of the agencies. And so overall, we'll really just maybe touch on starting on the executive summary, which is page 1 of that document that we included. Just some high level comments here. Maybe first around timing. So we expect to start and kick off our audit procedures in October, so next month really. These are our planning procedures, October into November, and then likely our hearing audit right after that in December and January. And then I believe our expectation is to come to your late January meeting and present our audit results. Get back to that normal cycle as deviated a little bit this last year. But so really just, like I said, just wanted to call up the timing there and our expectation to get back to that sort of normal timeline. And then maybe I'll just flip to a couple more pages of materials. I highlight on page 2 that there's an outline of our audit services. We'll really just say it's consistent with prior years. So we are intending to perform audits of the same agencies and ultimately issue similar audit reports for all of those agencies again this year. Then maybe I'll flip to page 3. Page 3 highlights what we call our areas of audit emphasis, and really has just a summary of our planned audit procedures here. Again, we'll just say our expectation is that our audit procedure, our plan of procedures will be consistent with prior years as expected, and certainly deviations or changes as we go and execute our audits. That will be part of our audit results presentation and comments that we see again in January. And so really, I think that's all maybe I would call out from the materials. There were a couple of appendices that include some future accounting standards, some applicable this year, some future years, but certainly any that are adopted this year, we'll talk about the audit results again this year.
Any questions? Joyce, good. Everybody good? All right.
Excellent. Thank you all.
Yes, thank you. So we're going to move to we're going to move to the governance committee agenda now. The first item.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're right.
On the governance committee agenda involving MBBA and TSFC is the approval of the minutes of the January 26, 2023 audit committee meeting. Absent comments from MBBA and TSFC committee members, I'll deem those minutes approved. Checking in here with Andy, anybody else about the minutes of the audit committee? All right. There are 2 items for MBBA and TSFC on the governance committee agenda today. One is a review item and the other is an action item. First, the review item. This is the annual review of the data licensing services contract with Bloomberg and arbitrage rebate calculation services contracts. And then 2, approval of contracts with ImageMaster LLC for financial printing services and Sustain Analytics US Incorporated for climate bond verification services. Diana, I think we need a resolution for these items, right? That's great. I should pause anyway. Right.
No questions? Okay. Now before the MBBA and TSFC Governance Committee is a resolution that was transmitted in connection with this item. Assuming the first and seconds previously recorded, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Thanks, Diana. Thanks, everybody. That's it for the MBBA TSFC Audit and Governance Committee. So now we're going to move on to just board action for MBBA. As to comments from the MBBA TSFC members, I'll deem the May 16th minutes approved. Thank you all. So the next item on the agenda is a resolution approving the administrative budget requests and financial plans for FY24 that Darrell Johnson just presented a few moments ago. The audit committee was briefed on this item, as we recall, since it just happened. So we'll move on to the full board vote. Diana, please.
Now before the MBBA and TSFC boards is a resolution that was transmitted in connection with this item. Assuming the first and seconds previously recorded, all in favor, please say aye.
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 The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
No one changed their votes. Okay. The next item on the agenda is a resolution approving compensation adjustments for senior vice presidents. Betsy's, she always gets to talk about this, so she's going to do this. I heard Ruth Ann is always like, you're talking about the rules. Something.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good morning. So as Ken said, year over year, I get to come and talk about salary adjustments for senior officers. As a reminder, we make similar adjustments for all management confidential or MC employees, but we don't present that at this meeting. We do them and then report at the end of the year on those adjustments. Per our policy procedures, you should note that all of these adjustments fall in the recommended range of salaries between $182,555 and $250. And the adjustments are consistent with budget bulletins issued by the Division of Budget. As you may have read in the memo, one of those bulletins instructs the payment of performance advances to eligible MCs, and the other instructs the payment of 3% salary increases retro to March or April, and a lump sum payment of $3,000. You should note that as directed by the Division of Budget, SVPs and executive team members are not receiving performance advances in the adjustments that you are being asked to approve. And you'll note that unfortunately our commissioner is absent from this entire list because given ongoing pay commission activities, she is not currently eligible for the 3% or the $3,000. Andy, I think you asked a question earlier, so while I can't go through each specific current salary, the range of salaries is currently about 160 reflected for these 7 people are somewhere between 166,000 and 222,000, and then we'll go up obviously by the amount in the book.
Okay. Now, I was just curious. I didn't know how many people were involved. I didn't know what their current salaries are, and then what the projected salaries will be with the new increases. And so, how many people are we talking about, Ruth?
There are 7 reflected in the memo. They're listed on the second page. There's a memo and then Exhibit A. Thank you.
Yeah, that's okay. I'll look it up.
But again, you should know, and to be very clear, similar adjustments have been made for all MCs throughout the entity. We just, by the bylaws, are required to bring the senior officers to the board at this time. And then we make the adjustments and then report on them, I think, in December, right? 8 years for the rest. So I hope that helps.
Okay.
It's Jesse. I just would like to say that this is consistent. We reviewed it with the team and it is consistent with direction sort of statewide. So I want to thank HCR for their work and we are supportive of these changes.
Thank you, Jesse.
Jesse, that's super helpful. Thank you.
And appreciate, I mean, we work with DOB on these, so I appreciate you and your team's review as well. They are retro to April. April. It's March 30th.
Great. Any other questions? Thanks, Andy, for your questions, for digging in. That's helpful. Anybody else have questions for Betsy? Well, let's advance the item then, please, Diana.
Okay. Now before the MBBA and TSFC boards is a resolution that was transmitted in connection with this item. Assuming the first and second previously recorded, all in favor, please say aye.
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 The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Great. Thanks, Betsy. Thanks, Diana. There are 5 items that are, next items are all informational items, including the currency agent procurements and the lobbying law restriction period. Also, a review of the second quarter procurement report for the period ending April 30, 2023. Third quarterly procurement report for the period ending July 31st, 2023. Review the second quarterly investment report for the period ending April 30th, 2023. And a third quarterly investment report for the period ending July 31st, 2023. Also have the financial statement update for the second and third quarters of FY23. We have the budget financial plan presented by Darrell for the second quarter of fiscal 23. Final item on the agenda is also an informational item. We'll take the form of a presentation. Here we go. Another PowerPoint, right? That's kind of cool. On MBA programs, something that I know Andy has asked about for quite some time. Yes. So now I just want to check, since my friend is on the phone and can't see this, is there a way, has Andy
I can see it. No, I can see it.
Got it. Great. I want to confirm that, Andy. Thanks.
So I just want to point out that, yes, over the last few years, Andy and Linda Baldwin in particular, and then David, when he came on the Department of State, have asked about MBBA and the fact that we haven't been active as a bond issuer. James worked at HFA and did the bond financings, volunteered early this year to chair of the mini of the board that he's not a member of, but he was sort of the conduit to begin discussing how to approach this. And we had a couple of calls. Andy was on those, I think. And so the net result was that we asked our bond counsel for MBBA, that's Harris Beach, Joran Barlabov is the representative. And we asked the financial advisors to also work with us and put together some ideas, some thoughts for the board on why MBBA has not been active and what we think we can look to do to make it more active. So that's the result of the PowerPoint. I think that, I want to introduce Mark. We also have another member of our team. So this is Duran, bond counsel. And
Mike, can you hear me? I'll speak fast.
Good.
Good morning. So I'm delighted to introduce our new Director of Capital Markets, Mark Price. In his role, Mark will be responsible for overseeing debt issuance for HFA, SONYMA, MBBA, and TSFC. He'll work closely with our internal and external partners, collaborating with our financial, cash flow, swap advisors, as well as bond underwriting teams and bond counsel. And his primary objective is to ensure optimal execution of the agency's bond transactions. Mark brings to our team an impressive background in municipal finance investment banking, with over 2 decades, I share that number with him, of experience as a public finance banker and municipal derivatives professional. And what's particularly noteworthy is his return to the public sector. As early in his career, he served as the debt manager for the city of Atlanta, where he successfully managed all of the city's debt issuance. In addition to his extensive professional experience, Mark holds a bachelor's degree in economics and a master of business administration from Harvard University. Thank you. We welcome Mark. We're so happy to have you.
Welcome. Thank you. Mark, when did you start?
This is day 18.
But who's counting?
It's not betting with it.
Really? That's good to scare away.
Great. So Alex, so you wrote over, so we're gonna walk us through.
Yep. All right, good morning. As Alex mentioned, the volume of MBBA financing has been below the side for a long time. We've actually done the last 3 of them. So that's not great. But and the question, there are both business reasons and legal reasons. I'm going to talk about some of the legal reasons, and Mark will talk about the business reasons. So let me just launch right into it. The presentation covers 5 points from the legal side that all go to your statute enabling act that get in the way of just being able to have a higher bond. And I'll just cover them very briefly. One, there's a requirement that there's no ability to just do all deals that may come your way and go through the paces. And that interferes with I think the interest of parties to do it. When localities would come to MBBA, they come with a team, and suddenly they're it have to be done on a competitive basis and bring all kinds of collaborative delay. And so what's being proposed for consideration is to have a package of changes to your enabling act, one of which would simply permit MBBA to be authorized both negotiated and competitive for all transactions. And to the extent that they would be done on a negotiated basis, OSC.
Oh, you cut out on me.
Sorry. Is that better, Andy?
Yes.
So just for the last point that if this point was addressed in a package of legislative changes, MBBA would be able to do all of its units on a negotiated or competitive basis, and if negotiated, then the terms and conditions of the negotiated offering would still be subject to OSC approval. The second point is that it's currently a requirement that MBBA financing have debt service reserves established in connection with those transactions. Since much of the security for those deals have been general obligation bonds that underlie, that are provided as security for the MBBA to the MBBA. Question is, why do you need a debt service reserve on top of the deal? So that would be eliminated. It wouldn't prohibit a debt service. It just wouldn't require it. The next point would be to expand the current statutory authorization for a state intercept. One does exist under the statute, but what we found over the years is that it doesn't quite have it isn't as broad as it could be. It doesn't kick in pre-default. There's things about the statutory intercept that could be improved, thereby making future.
Does the legislation already authorize for an interception of sales tax in certain state and local aid?
Yes, but its use is somewhat limited, and there's a whole structure that's been put into the statute so that its usefulness is it's a little less than the optimal. So this would be to make it more optimal.
Okay, so in other words, if you expanded this authorization, would that pretty much justify then the elimination of the establishment of a debt service reserve?
That would be another reason why you would want to have a debt service reserve fund, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Point is that MBBA is currently subject to statutory caps on how much debt can what benefits can be conveyed through MBBA, purchase of underlying investments of locality, and those caps don't enhance the attractiveness and the ability of MBBA to be a broad-based statewide issuer on behalf of localities. Either eliminating those caps or sort of recasting those caps into categories of types of issues that MBBA might undertake, whichever direction it would go, would simply be less restrictive than what MBBA is facing now. So again, the idea is to take away some of these perhaps more restrictive aspects of its enabling and making it easier for localities to come to MBBA and receive its benefits. And then finally, the way MBBA statute works is when a locality comes to MBBA, it basically issues GO obligations, which MBBA then purchases, and then that money flows back to the locality, and they use the proceeds of that purchase to do whatever they came to accomplish with MBBA. But the thought is that that's an older type of structure. The thought function as a provider, TSFC, for instance, and so rather than purchase the obligation, the statute also allowed for the same underlying obligation to be contributed, and then a loan made by MBBA after the proceeds of its financing. It's an alternative way of getting the same endpoint. And so again, it's designed to be a little less restrictive on what MBBA can undertake. So those are the 5 kinds of things that might be addressed if there was a package of.
Can I ask Alex a question? Alex, based on these 5 modifications, which all make beautiful or great sense to me, what kind of pushback, were these things ever approached or pushed to the legislature or the administration about making these changes or at some point? And what was the pushback if that was true, or we tried to make modifications to the existing legislation?
Yes, so all of these proposed changes, except for the last one, I think, have been proposed in the past, Andy, in the form of draft legislation.
Okay, you cut out.
We've discussed them with Chamber. All of these, except for the last one, have been proposed over the years. There really has been no Chamber disagreement. It's just been unfortunate that the bill got passed over because they were focused on bigger things. DOB has had some concerns over the years, the part of DOB, not the sort of the Jesse part, but the part that deals with the local finance law, have said to us that, to the extent that MBBA becomes much more active, then some of the local finance law, their fear is that, MBBA doesn't have all the protections the local finance law has. And it may mean that, municipalities may end up issuing bonds without all of those constraints that they feel should remain on them. So that has been.
And expanding on that, Alex, wearing sort of my other hat, I also deal with local governments here at budget. And, I think we just, when working with our colleagues who work with capital and debt, I think we always we appreciate and think that there definitely can be opportunities for MBBA. However, when a local government gets into trouble, it is frequently lands on us to help assist them. So we want to make sure whatever we move forward with is sort of conservative and not simply a workaround that could create future issues.
That's exactly.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Alex. I don't know what you're going to say.
That's exactly what we've heard. Yes.
Okay. Well, one of the, I guess, the question I would have is, do you think it would be necessary? And I think we discussed a little bit of this in our previous meetings relative to the involvement or perhaps a role by the state comptroller's office in assisting our efforts to make these modifications. I don't know if that in the past has ever been addressed.
Not done that, Andy. That would be helpful. We'll definitely do that this time.
Okay. And then the second part of the proposed package, not intended to be corrective in that nature, but more expansive in programmatic authority toward MBBA. Part of this is a result of hearing from certain localities about their desire to do things, and MBBA is authorized to do it currently. So there are three areas that are being considered that would be part of the other half of the package. One is to be authorized to provide emergency disaster relief financing for localities. It's not that localities can't do that for themselves, but under the LFL and the local finance law and the general municipal law, there are embedded restrictions on how fast they can move, what kind of clearance that they can do, and in process through. If MBBA is able to provide that same financing.
Once again, you cut out on me.
I was just saying, Andy, that if localities can do this kind of financing for themselves, but they can't do it as quickly as MBBA could if properly authorized, there would be an incentive to come to MBBA for that kind of financing. Now, part and parcel with that is, well, then how would MBBA finance these kinds of things? And, again, we're trying to be as expansive at the front end. Think about this process. That would either be done in one of two ways. That the underlying security provider, the geos provided by the underlying localities who MBBA security, would either be LFL, local finance law compliant, meaning all the things that the local finance law requires for a locality to issue its own GO bond, would continue to be a feature of an MBBA financing from the lower side, not MBBA, the state authority, not subject to the local finance law. But you don't want to get into a mismatch where MBBA is doing a back end of financing, for instance, but the only security that the GOs can be is front end. Now you've got MBBA providing the financing, but there's mismatch between the security from the public. So one way to do this is to continue in that way, and then an alternative would be is to have a limited exception for MBBA financing that would allow the underlying security issued by the locality to not be local finance law compliant, so that it could be a perfect match between what MBBA is doing the underlying security. So that would be done either on a purchase basis, which is what you're currently allowed to do, or the thought is if you're going to be able to make revolving loans or just actual loans, whether they program or not, it would take the deficit finance. That comes up from time to time. There have been a number of localities that have gotten in trouble, and they need special legislation to be able to get out of trouble. But if MBBA was granted the authority to provide deficit financing, that could have any and all kinds of restrictions attached to it. But as a concept, to have MBBA authorized to be a provider and to be able to provide the financing, perhaps in better terms than what the locality could get for themselves, that would be a second area for authorization. And then finally, there's a general other core purpose. Bond, special school purpose bond, special school deficit program bond, Recovery Act bond, public safety communication bond, resiliency bond, and whatever else one might conceive of would be sort of a catch-all for core purposes that MBBA could be the financing solution for. So those are the three new areas that might be considered for greater. Yeah, and with that, yeah.
Thanks so much, Ron. So I'm going to cover sort of what the potential roadblocks have been for localities utilizing MBBA. This is somewhat of a postscript. I think both Alex and Duran going through some of the proposed legislative changes and expanding the programmatic approach, talked about some of the issues that the localities are facing through that. But just to put a finer point on some of these things, using MBA include, but they're not limited to, access to professional debt issuance staff. You can imagine there are localities that are already stressed in terms of their human resources, the number of folks that they can dedicate to their debt issuance needs. Obviously, here at the agencies, we have a full debt issuance staff. That's what we do. We do that well. And so offering that to localities is certainly a plus, as well as the economies of scale that are supposed to be garnered by going through a program like MBA, such that if you can get your transaction as a locality as part of a larger transaction, certainly that's going to speak to the type of investor demand that you can get. So typically we look at small deals in the market as harder deals in the market because of liquidity, illiquidity premium, if you will. So those are benefits that localities are supposed to be able to garner. But there's some perception about not really getting those types of benefits with savings, especially under the current structure where you have to issue your own obligations. You have to pay all of the issuance costs on those obligations that are then purchased by MBA. And of course, doing MBA bond deals, there's another set of issuance costs. So there's this tension about we're supposed to get economies of scale, but it seems like maybe paying for things twice. The fact of the matter is there's always going to be sort of the local costs, and there are going to be the costs of the agency to do these deals. But I think what needs to happen or considered going forward is to improve that outreach to the localities, to really market, if you will, what the benefit is going through the program. And certainly that's a matter of taking some of our staff's time, And really just because we understand how it works, sort of being focused on that to demonstrate the benefits of the program. I think the second point that we have heard and talking with our great financial advisors, Brad, on the college committee this year, there's this perception of the state intercept mechanism not having sufficient credit rating benefit. Let me go into what that means very, very briefly. There was a little bit of a discussion earlier. I believe we asked a question about that intercept mechanism, if it already exists. It does. The way it works is intercept only kicks in after there is some sort of payment default. Our financial advisors have put together a whole grid of bond banks from other states around the country, and there are a number of different support mechanisms that those states use for their bond banks. Intercepts are one, but the intercept may take a little bit of a different form, where it may be pre-default, as Duran had mentioned. But there are other mechanisms such as an obligation to replenish a reserve fund. Now, I know we talked about removing having to put a reserve fund in, but there are certainly other ways where the state could lend more support to the program. So these are the types of mechanisms that can be considered. And then I think we talked about the local finance law restrictions a bit, but just to put a finer point on it, if the concept is this is an entity and a program that localities can utilize, especially in situations where they may need additional assistance, help. It might be a stress situation. Prescribing very specific purposes or situations where there's some sort of LFL relief may make sense in order to carry out the mission. So those are the major sort of business points, if you will, and some ideas around how to approach it. So I'll leave it there.
Thank you for that, by the way. I mean, do you think it's possible for the Municipal Bond Bank Agency to utilize the same structure, but in the regard of packaging local government outstanding debt, issuing refunding bonds? Is that something we should consider too? If there's, if there's a group of local governments that I have outstanding debt, that the Municipal Bond Bank Agency could play a role in performing, refunding some of their outstanding debt? I was just wondering if that's something we should consider.
Yeah, absolutely. I think anytime when you have when local governments have options in terms of how they finance their, I'm getting a little bit of an echo, I'm sorry. When local governments have options as to how they finance certain projects or projects that have already been financed, and so there's outstanding debt obligations, if there is a more cost-effective way to do it through MBBA issuance, I don't see any reason why you couldn't issue refunding obligations to provide those savings. It's just a matter of using a different option that's made available to them. Yes.
And getting the authority.
And right. Not an option, that's the authorities, right. That's absolutely right.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I was just thinking that would be something perhaps that we could also include or pursue in amendment of the legislation.
We'll do that. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you both for the presentation. Thank you, Andy, for your questions. The PowerPoint, it's all very helpful. Great to meet you both and welcome you, Mark. That's right. To the team. Don't put this in the minutes or put it in a diplomatic way when you do the minutes. Diana, no, I take a nuanced view compared to my friend Andy on this, and that's that I think we have to be very, very careful. What I think is a form of moral hazard for local government. We don't want to create a facility that enables governments to borrow beyond the needs. And many local governments, think IDAs, think counties, think municipalities across the state, at least outside of New York City where things are different, have a level of indebtedness, a property tax burden, a sales tax burden, the state income tax burden. Basically, New York State, as we all know, suffers under a tax burden that has chased businesses and people away, and they leave every year. This is especially, been dominant in state cities. Is that like,
well, Ken, I would assume that prior to us even going into a market with maybe a relatively unstable credit, that we would make the decision on our own not to participate, or we certainly wouldn't contribute to them borrowing more than constitutionally they're authorized to do. So yeah, I'm sure that internally and with the help of our financial advisors and bond lawyers, that we would make an assessment as to whether or not it would be required to do that type of debt issuance at someone else's risk.
Right. No, Andy, I totally agree. I'm just trying to make the larger point that if we were going to do this, I think we have to be very careful, because I think governments, the localities that most need our help with a facility like this, may be those that are already in significant trouble and have reached a practical limit. I mean, I never met an elected official, don't put this in the minutes, that given the choice between reducing services, right, because of declining tax base, for example, or borrowing more money, I never met anyone, an elected official, that didn't choose the latter, right, as a more attractive political option. Let's go borrow more money. And just like Alex learned long ago, when his teenage kid maxed out the credit card, not to give the kid another credit card. Right, Alex, remember that? We have to be careful. That would be my caution, just given broader economic conditions and tax and regulatory conditions of this great empire state. But you'll have to find a very delicate way to put that in. Still, great presentation, Andy. Thank you. Andy, you're the one who's pushed for this for years, so I'm just sort of giving you a general.
Well, I'm also trying to improve the importance of what the Municipal Bond Bank Agency could be doing. And right. One of our concerns has always been, I bet you of the 2,000 local governments around this state, I bet you more than half of them haven't even heard of the Municipal Bond Bank Agency and what we would be able to do for them.
Yeah, no, thank you, Andy. Seriously, thanks very much. Joyce.
You say part of the problem is
I can't hear.
yeah, increasing what is our liability? What will increasing the risk do for us or to us? Is that just reflected in the bond price, or is that also other additional risks?
Yes, I think it would manifest itself in a couple of ways. Certainly, on price and the market will bear in terms of how they look at the underlying risk. And again, the risk is going back to the creditworthiness of the localities that are essentially borrowing through the bond bank. So it would certainly manifest itself that way. As an issuer, issuers are always obligated to do certain things. One of those things is disclosure. The bond bank's name is on a deal. It has certain obligations that it needs to follow post issuance, and so that requires time and effort. But again, that's something that as a group of agencies we do every day. HFA, SONYMA, in the past MBBA, and the securitization management. So there are those sorts of risks, and the chairman's comments are well taken in terms of not going mechanism.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm really looking forward to working with the team that we can assemble to hopefully present, to the various, whether it's the division of the budget, the legislature, and the state comptroller's office. I'm really excited that we could kind of pursue this, and I'm very appreciative and grateful of the presentation that was put together to at least alert all of us as to the possibilities of amending this legislation on our behalf.
Thank you. Well said. I think we all agree with you that this is a very important thing to look at. Thanks for your comments. It was an information line. Just real quick.
I just want to say, first of all, this is excellent. I think the amount of thinking that went into this, and I think the idea of the second bullet, considering revised support mechanism, is all about the front door and the gate, the gating mechanism to access to the bond bank's capital. So I think putting in place those types of requirements and our thinking and formalizing that is really important. But to that point, on the back end of that, are places like you see in Vermont, where it benefits so many small municipalities that would otherwise be without sophistication around capital planning, around infrastructure planning, like Virginia. The breadth of from broadband to this to resilient, it does like the level of, I think, and we talk about the challenges that our upstate communities are facing, whether it's replacing culverts and this and that. The level of economies of scale and sophistication that a state level organization can bring in thinking around infrastructure is massive.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, great. Good. Thank you both. And thank you, Andy.
Okay, wrap it up. Let me wrap it up.
Yes, Diane, would you wrap it up?
Sure. There being no further business for the MBBA and TSFC boards, I will now ask for motions and seconds to adjourn the MBBA and TSFC meetings. Assuming the first and second previous, wait a second. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the
MBBA. Trying to help you.
Board and Audit and Governance Committees, all in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Yay. Motions are carried. The meetings are adjourned.
Diane, you know what we need to do now is open up our HFA, AHC, HTFC meetings. Could you do that, please?
Yes. I ask for a motion to open the HFA, HTFC, and AHC meetings. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second, great. I will now ask for individual votes from each HFA, HTFC, AHC board member. We will accept the prior votes of Chairman Adams and Mr. Olzak in opening up the MBBA TSFC meetings. Commissioner Wisnauskas. She there? I can't see.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Mr. Curtis? Mr. Curtis?
Aye.
Ms. McCune? Can I see you there? Is she there?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Aye. Okay. Mr. McIntyre?
Aye.
And Ms. Miller?
Aye.
I ask for a motion for the HFA, HTFC, and AHC audit committees.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
I will now ask for individual votes from each HFA, AHC, and HTFC audit committee members. Mr. Curtis?
Aye.
We will accept the votes of Chairman Adams, Ms. Miller, and Mr. Olzak. I will ask for a motion for the HFA, HTFC, and AHC governance committees. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. I will now ask for individual votes from each HFA, HTFC, and AHC governance committee member. We will accept the votes of Chairman Adams and Mr. Olzak. Mr. Curtis?
Aye.
I ask for a motion for the HFA Finance and Program Committee.
So moved. Sorry.
Great. Second?
Second.
Great. I will now ask for individual votes from the HFA Finance and Program Committee members. We will accept the votes of Chairman Adams and Mr. Olzak. I think I turn it now back over to you, Ken.
Thank you, Diana. Well done. Thank you very much. We're going to begin with Audit and Governance Committees. The first item is the approval of minutes of the Audit and Governance Committee meetings that are in the Audit and Governance Committee books. These were sent to you or sent around the other day. Absent corrections from the members, I'll deem those minutes approved. Thank you all very much. The minutes are always really well done. The next item on the Audit Committee agenda is a resolution recommending the approval of the administrative budget requests and financial plans for FY24. This is where Carol gets to come back. Carol Johnson will present this item. If you heard it earlier, feign a surprise, shock. Wow, isn't it surprising? That's true. Yeah. Morning, Ken.
So today, we're presenting the administrative budget for the agency. We'll concentrate on the city budget today, and the financial plans. Each year, we bring to the board the administrative budget and financial plan for approval. And this entails the necessary funds paid for operation of our. The financial plan which follow the administrative budget request provide a snapshot of the funding needed, funding estimated that'll be necessary to fund the operation for the upcoming fiscal year. We typically get input from all departments to find out what their needs are, but we're mindful of the overall budget increase for the fiscal year. The total budget has been 107.5 million, which includes ordinary expenses of 102 million. And George's point, maybe not extraordinary, but probably normal. Next time we'll call it initiative/other expenses. And we'll and that's where we look at all the personnel salaries and allocate them based upon the work performed in each agency. I work 40% on HFA, 40% on SONYMA, 20% on the others, and my salary allowed. We have a common cost allocation where common costs such as rent, office supplies, and some IT expenses are allocated 50% to SONYMA, 50% to HFA. Charges, which represent costs that are specific to an agency, so it's HFA, bond deal, and legal expenses, that of course indeed.
Everyone else had a chance, that's right.
And by the way, this is Stephanie Schiller, she's our budget manager.
Likewise. I'll go through the significant items on the budget.
Well, only if Sadie. Are you okay with the budget? Sadie?
I'm okay with that.
I don't think it's any.
It's done.
Yeah, as he's seen it. Right.
Yeah.
So I think we're okay. Should go to the vote.
Did you say you're gonna change the word extraordinary?
I'm considering changing.
Because it's not against, it's not.
It's not.
It's a confusing term. Right, right, right.
Extraordinary.
Yeah. Reference to personnel.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you. So it's an important note, right? Like I described it. Diana, I think we can go to the vote.
Okay. Now before the HFA HC Audit Committee is a resolution that was transmitted in connection with this item. Assuming the first and seconds previously recorded, all in favor, please say aye.
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 The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
So I think on the two audits, and again, Sadie is the only member of the board that wasn't here for the MBBA presentation.
Yeah.
Okay, you did catch most of it, so I think.
Bring honey up.
No, I think we should just do the vote. We don't need it. Okay, we're way behind.
You guys just got those. You could knock yourself out, $107 million. Don't spend it all in one place.
So Diana, why don't we do the votes on the two internal audits?
Okay, we'll do the votes on the two internal.
Public safety and security and
Follow-up, the follow-up.
Right.
Okay, I couldn't hear you, Ken. Just say that again.
Well, we're just gonna ask you to
Take the
Is it-
vote on the two
you have a
internal audits.
presentation?
Yeah. Yes.
Great. Now before the HFA AHC Audit Committee are two resolutions that were transmitted in connection with these two items. One is the approval of internal audits, follow-up review of the 2022 audit reports. And the second is approval of internal audit report on office safety and security. Assuming the first and seconds previously recorded, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The The motions two are carried and the resolutions two are adopted.
Perfect, thank you. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the independent audit contract with Ernst & Young. And again, let me just say, any questions about re-engaging Ernst & Young? Great. Then Diana, let's vote for that item, please.
Okay. Same thing. Now before the HFA, AHC audit committees is a resolution that was transmitted in connection with this item. Assuming the first and seconds previously recorded, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Thank you, Diana. Remaining items on the agenda are informational, financial statement updates, second quarter fiscal 23, third quarter fiscal 23, first quarter 24 for AHC. Budget financial plan for second quarter fiscal 23, first quarter 24 for AHC. Independent auditor, Ernst & Young's presentation, the audit plan.
Did you get a chance to hear
It's a nice PowerPoint.
She saw it. So
You okay with that?
Yeah.
All right, very good. Those were informational, so if you had questions, glad you don't. Okay, now we're going to go to the governance committee agenda. First item, governance committee agenda is approval of the governance committee minutes, absent comments from the HFA HC committee members. I'll deem those minutes approved. Thank you all very much. There's 6 items for approval by the governance committees. First, approval of the hosted technology service agreement with ProLink Solutions, Inc., the contract with Sierra for SAP application management services, otherwise known as AMS, and approval of the contract with Amazon Web Services, or Amazon. Number 2, approval of the SONYMA custody service agreement with the Bank of New York Mellon, and the HFA SONYMA financial reporting services contract with Bloomberg, and review the data licensing services contract also with Bloomberg, and an annual review of the financial service contract for arbitrage rebate calculation services. I assume that's from 2, but specify another vendor. Approval to extend the critical source contract with Edward Daniels Group for professional temporary staffing consultant service contracts. Approval of contracts with firms on the agency's pre-qualified list of firms for the provision of information technology and temporary staffing consultant services, otherwise known as IT consultant services. Approval of the agency's financial printing contract with Image Master LLC. And HFA's contract with Sustainalytics for climate bond certification services, something only James McIntyre understands. Approval annual review of the information technology or IT service contractual agreements. So that's all in the materials. And now we ask if people have questions about any of those items, please.
Okay, so I will take. Do we have questions, Ken?
No, I'm sorry. We can vote them all as a group, right? As a bundle.
Perfect. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. We can take all these 6 contracts and do it as one. Now before the HFA and AHC Governance Committee are resolutions that were transmitted in connection with the.
Diane, time out.
Which one?
There's one that didn't make the list, which we're going to see if we can add in with the board members' support. It didn't make my.
It's not in yet. It's not in.
What is it? Would you come up and tell us where it is? Come on. Is that for us? Is that for HFA? Isn't that Sunny Beth? Okay, no problem. We'll catch it later.
Diane, then we can do these 6, and this other issue that Lisa raised is going to come up under SONYMA. Great.
Okay, so let's go to these 6 now. Now before the HFA and AHC Governance Committees are resolutions that were transmitted in connection with this item regarding the 6 contracts that Ken outlined earlier. Assuming the first and second previously recorded, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried and the resolution is adopted.
Thank you very much. Let's remind ourselves that while we move here with haste to approve those items, each of the 6 represents a tremendous amount of work by our colleagues here. Everybody, and sorry that we don't have more time to dwell on it. The rest of the stuff we have here, our governance committee items, are basically informational items. We have an annual review of the contracts with Benefit Resource Inc. or Benefit Resource for administration services of the agency's qualified transportation expense benefit plan. Actuarial services contract with Financial Integrity Resource Management LLC. And number 3, contracts with ADP, automatic data processing for, you guessed it, payroll processing services. Annual review of the contract with QC Roll Inc. CQ Reporter. Is that what that is? Yep. You read that? Yes. Okay. The insurance consultant service contract with insurance advisors. And those are just informational, and as I say, and they're in the board materials. So now we can move on to the HFA AHC agenda. We're actually going to look at some projects there.
Yeah.
Not a little while. No, HFA, fine. You said we have HFA.
Yeah.
The first items in the minutes are the minutes, which are in the board books and shall be deemed approved unless there are any objections from members. Everybody okay with the minutes from last time?
Yeah.
Next item on the agenda is resolution approving the administrative budget. Here we go again. Request of financial plans for FY 24. And the audit committee was briefed on this item just now, right? So as long as everybody thinks the people on the audit committee, which are the same people, have good judgment, we can move to the board vote. Diana?
Okay, now before the HFA-HC board is a resolution that was transmitted in connection with this item. Assuming the first and second previously recorded, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
The next item on the agenda, thank you, Diana, is a resolution approving the 2022 HFA audited supplementary financial information, which is also known as the OFI, the other financial information report. This is a consent item where we're not going to have a presentation unless anybody wants one. So is everybody okay with Joyce's? Is everybody okay with? Joyce, does that talk about? Is that broad? No. Volume. Yeah. Well, that was, so that's information. So we're going to keep going. Diana, actually, no, we need a resolution for this one, which was the HFA audited OFI, other financial information report. Right.
Correct. Now before the HFA members is a resolution that was transmitted in connection with this item. Assuming the first and seconds previously recorded, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
And thank you. Next item on the agenda, resolution approving compensation adjustments for senior vice presidents. Betsy presented this earlier. I don't know, was Sadie in the room at the time?
I read it.
She's read the materials. She's on board. Diana, let's do it.
Okay, now before the HFA-AHC boards is a resolution that was transmitted in connection with this item. Assuming the first and second previously recorded, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
5 through 9 are informational items. 5 is the current agency procurements and lobbying law restricted period. Please, I draw your attention to those procurements. 6 is a review of the second quarterly procurement report for the period ending April 30, 2023. And the third quarterly procurement report for the period ending July 31st, 2023. Again, bring your attention to those procurements. Review of the second quarterly investment report for the period ending April 30, 2023. Third quarter investment report for the period ending July 31st, 2023. 8 is a financial statement update. The second and third quarters fiscal 23, first quarter 24 for AHC. 9 budget financial plan, second and third quarter fiscal 23. And for the first quarter, that just ended July for AHC. So that's 5 through 9, and they're informational. Any questions? Hearing none, we'll now take up the items that require HFA Finance and Board Committee action and HFA member resolution 10. Resolutions of HFA Finance Program Committee HFA members recommending authorizing the issuance of an amount not to exceed $39,200,000 of fixed rate and or failure rebate, tax exempt or taxable bonds, and an amount not to exceed $19,428,000 in HFA subsidy funding, and an amount not to exceed $902,000 of NYSERDA Clean Energy Initiative funds, and an amount not to exceed $5,603,331 in Federal Housing Trust Fund Program loan funds. All of that rolled up to the project known as Center City Courtyard in Rochester, Monroe County. All right, let's talk about a project.
You must be exhausted.
We're going right through it. We're almost a third of the way done with today's event. Julie, hi, good morning.
Morning. Where are you,
You've been
everyone?
busy since last week.
We
Got some
have
projects.
been. We have been. Projects. So we're starting off with a project known as Center City Courtyard. This one is located in Rochester on West Cape Street. It's 164 5-story new construction building. This is a great example of a not-for-profit sponsored development. It's in partnership with Help USA. That is a long-time not-for-profit affordable and supportive housing developer. They also operate shelters. And they're doing this in partnership with Krista Development Corporation, yeah, which is a frequent and developer slash GIS that works state with us. All of these units are going to be affordable at or below 80% of AMI. And there will be a significant supportive component to this project. 27 units will serve residents with substance abuse disorder. There will also be units for folks who have been formerly incarcerated and are returning home to the community. Finally, there is a tranche of units available for folks with serious mental illness or who are veterans. There will be 3 individual service providers. This is a model that Help USA works for them. All of the service providers are local and very experienced, serving the substance abuse services, the Urban League of Rochester, providing services for formerly incarcerated. Project importantly is also receiving capital from HFA, which is the Homeless Housing Assistance Program at TSFC. Strategy for this development. So the building has some features: fitness room, free Wi-Fi, a courtyard for all tenants, a common room, service. So this project, in terms of its green features, has set the goal to become as close to passive as possible. So that means they have full electrification and decarbonization goals. Some of the technologies they're employing are air source air pumps for heating and cooling, central pump for domestic water, insulation with a high R value. Also going to be certified under the EPA's indoor AI plus survey. It's located, as I mentioned, centrally in just west of downtown, or the western section of downtown Rochester, near numerous bus lines and easily connected to both Amtrak and the Central Bus Terminal in Rochester. And this project fulfills the agency's priorities of preventing homelessness and is consistent with the Rochester comprehensive plan. So with that, I will.
No, I like the solar, which is about for 18 kilowatt array. It's about 2/3 the size of this room. Square footage. It's great. Now we just need lots of sun. Questions for Julie about the project? It is so ambitious in the various types of people that it serves, right? It's so ambitious. I hope that the on-site social service providers, I'm sure that you would put it. A lot of support.
What services? The 24-hour or is that? Yeah, I should mention one thing I didn't mention in my comments was that they have 24-hour security at this project. Social workers are not there 24 hours. Social workers are there during business hours. And I would say also, that HHA really is very experienced and understands how support housing works. So when we see that HHA is supportive of providing
This is supportive housing, it's no longer a concept. Really done with some of the times. I want the folks to see how it's incredible. Developers who were challenged to do this years ago stepped up and now do it. Great model for how lots of other seriously affordable housing, which is a chain that gets stuff done. The electric program gets stuff done. So there are, it's just so hard to see it. I agree with you on HTFC. They are. So they're going to be this model. It's good. My only question was, is this the same problem that James is going to?
Oh, yeah.
It is, right?
I think it's the wrong place. Created it at HFA, which was working here in the early. Yeah, I see. There's a couple of other projects in Rochester.
Okay, my turn, Ken?
Yeah. Wait, James has a question.
No, I just think it's like,
Okay.
this is really interesting in the fact that it's like recognizing supportive housing is like one definition, the idea that inside supportive housing, like there's no single definition for homeless in the same thing. So this idea of recognizing that multiple service providers is probably better suited perhaps over time to support the varying needs why people end up in the house. I think it's really interesting.
I also think it's nice from a design standpoint. I mean, we're just looking at the pictures, but often we see because of financial constraints, sort of minimal consideration for aesthetics, but the courtyard looks really beautiful. The fact there's sort of like from the street, you have no idea there's the courtyard, the corner of either the West Main Street, downtown Rochester, kind of near the highway. So it's actually so near the highway that courtyard is going to be a very peaceful area for residents. So, I mean, it's just very thoughtful.
All of the developments that visit. Mountain there. And the units themselves, other than being a little bit smaller maybe than a market rate.
Like, if there are no further questions or comments, Daniel, let's spend some money.
Okay, now before the HFA members and the HFA Finance and Program Committee are resolutions to be adopted that were transmitted in connection with this item. Assuming the first and second previously entered for HFA and for the Finance Committee, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motions are carried and the resolutions adopted. We move to item 11.
Yeah, let's do that. Sorry, I was looking at the details of this one. 11, this is resolutions of the Finance and Program Committee and of HFA members recommending approving issuance of tax exempt or taxable fixed rate or variable bonds in an amount not to exceed $25,300,000 and an amount not to exceed $13,400,020 in HFA subsidy funds for Mary the Queen project. It's quite a name. So the Mary the Queen project in the city of Yonkers, Westchester County, back.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Mary the Queen. So this project is an adaptive reuse of the former Mary components. Most recently, the building had been used as a nursing home for aging sisters. And the seller is a entity, I guess, of St. Joseph's Hospital. At this point, they listed some Colorado's properties today in the past. So it's most recently used as a nursing home. This financing will completely transform this project into 73 units of housing for seniors. There will be 52 studios, 21 bedrooms, and 1 enclave service unit for 2 bedrooms. And all units will be affordable at or below 60% regular. Majority of the units will serve seniors who are age 55 plus under the HI program. However, we have 8 Section 8 units in here to help support financing. The minimum age for Section 8 is 62. The construction scope includes a complete gut, units, I guess they're rooms now. They'll be transformed with private bathrooms and kitchenette to proper. This project is also going to include a commercial kitchen. The financing for the commercial above grade wall. So access will be segregated. This building also, it's been in our pipeline for quite some time. They've struggled, in some different areas of their financing. So it's been with us since before we adopted new sustainability and design guidelines. So for that reason, it is not achieving the CEI goals. Also, the difficulty in incorporating some of this with the adaptive reuse. However, they are reaching the baseline of 20% energy use reduction. They are incorporating Energy Star features, low flow appliances, high efficiencies, high building envelope, high grade building extension. The developer is Finney & Sullivan Corporation, which is a development entity. And Rockville is Rockville has done a lot of projects with the kids. So I'll conclude my comments there.
Of course, I'm always in favor of senior housing. But my question here is, you definitely have it's age 55 and over, when a growing proportion seniors are 75. Is there a reason why it's 55? Is that a policy issue or is that a legal issue?
This is by the policy of the HI. I know, I don't love 55 either.
Yeah. I think it's most of the people will have. So, yeah, brothers, I don't, but I don't think I'm well past 55. I turned 55 is nothing. I'm moving to senior house. So you're still 30. Although if it was affordable, it would change my mind. But now it's also, oftentimes it's going to be municipality also.
For money, right? And the pressure. Can you imagine that board decision about how to dispose of this asset and the tension, and maybe it was a mission decision or something, but to take this asset and who knows what behind that decision, but I think we should consider, the community should consider itself fortunate that this many assets.
Well, this would be a tough site for market rate. I would guess, right?
You think it's like the location made it realistic? Well, in any case, it is what it is. It's gone in a good direction, right? Compared to what could have happened to the site. Any other questions for Julie on this? Diana, your turn.
Okay, my turn. Now before the HFA members and the HFA Finance and Program Committee, a resolution.
And I'm so sorry. James has a question.
Yeah.
Hold that thought,
Do you
James.
guys know if St. Joseph controls the other sites, like the parking lot sites that are next to it, and are they planning any additional development? Is that their site as well? Looking at page 10.
The parking lot's actually incorporated into this.
Well, it's not, there's that parking lot, but if you look at like to the left of it, on the picture, there's a couple other sites.
Oh, yeah, I'm not sure the ownership of those sites, to be honest. The one that's in the C, the center of the C, that is going to be retained and sort of.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure that the adjacent properties in terms of those are also under control by St. Joseph as well, and it should be something that.
And yeah, keep an eye on.
Yeah.
Solvency.
Yeah.
Great. Back to you, Diana. We'll complete this one.
Okay, let's go. Now before the HFA members and the HFA Finance and Program Committee are resolutions to be adopted that were transmitted in connection with this item. Assuming the first and second previously entered for HFA and for the Finance Committee, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Thank you very much.
And the resolution is adopted. 12.
Sorry, thank you so much. Great project, everybody. Congratulations. 12 are resolutions of the Finance and Program Committee, HFA members recommending approving its issuance of tax-exempt, taxable, or fixed rate or variable rate bonds in an amount not to exceed $27,290,000 and an amount not to exceed $14,378,115 in HFA subsidy funds and an amount not to exceed $1,212,500 in NYSERDA Clean Energy Initiative funds for a project back up to Rochester in Monroe County called the Parliament Fairfield Project. Who's doing this one? Russell. Oh, Russell, good morning. Good morning. I'm wondering where we're going to hear from you.
Yeah, I got 2 public housing deals and a Mitchell for you.
Okay.
And I think they're all getting clean energy, so all heading in the right direction. This Parliament Fairfield project, it's 2 separate public housing projects under the supervision of the Rochester Housing Authority. They're going to be financed together, Fairfield Village, Parliament Arms. The properties themselves are about 5.5 miles from each other. One is on the south side, Fairfield Village along the Genesee River. Parliament Arms is on the north part of of Rochester on the east side of the river, just south of Rondequoit and the Seneca Park Zoo. We often finance public housing projects in bundles where we can, where it's feasible, as it's obviously more cost effective and efficient to do so, both financially and logistically. In this case, Fairfield Village was originally built in 1970. These are 2-story townhomes, 44 units, low-income families. Parliament Arms was built a year before that with 52 units in 3-story buildings, 6 of them. As is often the case with public housing built over 50 years ago, there's a need for substantial rehabilitation. In some cases, it's determined that some of the buildings are obsolete and it makes better sense to demolish them and build anew. In this case here, we've got a combination of both approaches. Fairfield Village and its 44 units will be preserved and rehabilitated. Parliament Arms, 44 of the 52 units will be preserved. One 8-unit building is going to be demoed and rebuilt as a new 15-unit 4-story elevator building on the property. So in total, the financing that we're doing will result in a net gain of 7 units of additional public housing. The process allows the Housing Authority to take advantage of HUD's Section 18 disposition program and the RAD conversion program. Both of these provide project-based Section 8 rental assistance to all of the units in the project. That's 103 total. That'll provide steady revenue to allow for the financing and ongoing stabilization of the project. The project's expected to exceed the agency sustainability requirements for existing buildings and exceed those for the new construction component to qualify for Clean Energy Incentive Program funding. It'll also meet the criteria of the 2020 Enterprise Green Communities Plus program. At Fairfield Village, the project will meet the energy use reduction goal of at least 20%, as well as the stretch goal for all electric in all 7 buildings. In Arms, the same standards will be met for the rehab portion. And then with the new construction portion, it'll be designed to meet Energy Star's multifamily new construction ERI program criteria. So it's all electric, each phase, heat pumps, domestic hot water, electrical vehicle charging stations, energy efficient appliances, lighting, windows, building envelope insulation, and all tenants will be receiving free in-unit Wi-Fi as a result of the financing. The project has full support of the city of Rochester. It complements their comprehensive 2034 revitalization plan. The city is also contributing some financing to the project in the form of home funding. The housing authority itself will be providing a capital contribution as well. As is typical with this type of public housing financing, the housing authority will retain legal ownership of the project through a long-term ground lease, 99 years, with the borrowing entity. The borrowing entity is a single-purpose entity whose sole member is the housing authority, who will form a tax credit partnership, which is how it's typically done with these LIHTC deals, to benefit from the tax credit equity. And then the Rochester IDA is providing a 40-year pilot real estate tax abatement. Coordinating these three development efforts will be Home Leasing Construction. As both a GC and a developer in their own right, Home Leasing has done substantial work with the HFC in the past, particularly with public housing and other deals. They've been very successful on successful rehabilitation and the construction of developments. So we think that the project is in very capable hands. They probably like to.
I'm trying to, this is the second, these are two projects, we just saw one that I don't remember, so I'm doing the math backwards, I'm probably doing wrong. Does anybody know the AMI for the Rochester area?
I might.
Yeah. Let me know, just trying to understand the affordability of two projects. I'm guessing it's
80% for a one bedroom, it's 1125. So I'm gonna go.
Any more questions?
Middle of a question, Diana, hold on, I'm sorry. Doesn't matter, I'm just trying to get a sense of Rochester AMI. Whatever.
50,000 here for like the median income, 50 to 60.
That would be on par. But yeah, then if 50 might be a little higher than that, actually. You know, get $1,000 a month, 50% of AMI, you're probably closer to 70,000. Just anyway, sometimes maybe in the write-ups might be helpful in somewhere in the text early on, remind us what the Buffalo, Rochester, home. So when we're looking at, percent AMI, it's easier to sort of say, okay, what's that?
What is the AMI?
Yeah.
What does this translate to?
Yeah.
So. Really? I saw the other day, I almost got on my chair. That's for the area median, so 80% of that. So
So there's a group working in Washington lobbying for establishment of as working on this. Think about housing development, same things, right?
well, today's problem is
That's the, yeah.
it's a real problem with questions. When you look at Southwest Yonkers, the area income in Southwest Yonkers are probably closer to.
Right. But if
So the rents are set way out of the region.
Exactly. Any questions going back to Russell for these two projects? We're calling them Parliament Fairfield.
I call it Parliament Funkadelic.
That's good.
Every time I see
Every time you see the term Parliament. All right. We have another.
Richmond doing
RBC.
Well, because of tax credits.
Yeah, our RBC is doing the syndication of the tax credits.
And what Lake sees, we have another project on the agenda this morning on the banks of the mighty Genesee River. It's asking us for forbearance, but we're not going to connect that issue, that project to the city, right? But they are linked. They are on the same river. It flows to the mighty Genesee River.
Ken, how about we approve this one before we go to forbearance?
How about we approve this? That's a good idea. While we're in a good mood.
Right, exactly. Now before the HFA members and the HFA Finance and Program Committee are resolutions to be adopted that were transmitted in connection with this item. Assuming the first and second previously entered for HFA and for the Finance Committee, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motions are carried and the resolution adopted.
Great, thank you, Diana. Thanks, everybody. Item 13, resolutions of the HA Finance and Program Committee, HFA members recommending authorizing issuance of amount not to exceed $72,630,000 in fixed rate variable rate tax stamp or taxable bonds. Also, an amount not to exceed $30,097,890 in HFA subsidy funding for the project known as Troy PHA Bundle 1, one of the more creative names we've seen in recent months. Troy PHA Bundle 1, Griswold Heights, City of Troy, Rensselaer County. Back to Russell. Let's go to across the state to eastern part of the state, Rensselaer County.
I'll try to be brief. So MDG is the developer for this one. They do a lot of work with the public housing authorities. They came into us last year with this gigantic proposal to do basically retransform Troy Housing Authority's entire portfolio. We just can't do it all in one shot. It would kind of blow all our buying cap. So we went back to them and told them, please, like, figure out which ones are more priority first, and we'll do them in stages. So they came back to us, and this is why we're calling this Bundle 1. So it's Griswold Heights, which is a very interesting project in and of itself. It's Troy Housing Authority's largest single public housing project in the city for families. It's located in the Griswold Heights district. It's about a mile southeast of downtown Troy. It's primarily residential neighborhood. It was originally developed by the Housing Authority in 1950, and then they built some additional buildings there in 1963. Currently, there's 390 units, 2 to 5 bedroom units. Like I said, these are for families. Largest public housing project in their portfolio. It retains historical aesthetic significance. In fact, it is registered as a historic landmark with the National Park Service, which also makes it eligible for historic tax credits, which is a significant part of the financing of the project. Like all public housing, decades of wear and tear have placed these historic buildings in need of rehabilitation and preservation. The developer is proposing a scope of work that will extend the life of the project, improve the quality of life in the households, provide for handicap accessibility and adaptability, and preserve the historical significance of the properties as they're, as a registered landmark. There's certain aesthetics that they have to maintain in order to keep that designation. The developer is the Troy Housing Authority in partnership with MDG. The Housing Authority will retain legal ownership through a 99-year ground lease. They'll create a single-purpose borrower, Troy Portfolio Preservation, LLC. In this case, it's a 50-50 partnership with MDG. But upon completion of their historic tax credit compliance period, which is a 5-year period, MDG will exit the ownership, and the project will be solely operated and owned by the Troy Housing Authority. MDG is also the general contractor. They're wholly qualified in this role. They've done excellent work with the agency on other projects, particularly with the use of historic tax credits. They did a very large deal with HTFC in East Williamsburg, NYCHA Housing, which I think they just completed, over 1,600 units in 20 buildings. So this is something that they're familiar with doing, and it's kind of exciting to see this approach going on with upstate public housing as well. The scope of work will be based on an IP&A. They're going to meet a lot of the agency sustainability guidelines for rehabilitation, the energy use reduction of 20%. Some energy efficiency upgrades will include replacement of all gas stoves with electric ones, new Energy Star appliances, LED light fixtures, new high-efficient domestic water heaters, and as it is existing housing, it'll not fully convert to fully electric. However, the existing natural gas boilers and furnaces will be upgraded to Energy Star certified 95 rated annual fuel utilization efficiency, which is among the highest levels to be achieved for these type of boilers. The renovations will be performed with tenants in place. No tenants, of course, will be displaced as a result. Rehabilitation in total is expected to take place over 30 to 31 months. The City of Troy is fully supporting the project, and they are providing a pilot for 30 years.
Russell, thank you. This is a project that we've been, which you somebody can get to very easily for the
Yeah.
minimal trouble.
Yeah, they're doing a lot. It's amazing that they'll redo their entire, we did this with the opening house, we've done it with other housing projects, but it goes right to be able to access us and do this whole sort of transformation for the next century.
Well, it's, would say they're 50 years old.
Yeah.
Yes, actually, more than that, actually. The rendering, the architectural drawing from the development at the time, which shows it purely in the countryside, Rensselaer County.
Yeah, there was nothing there at the time.
Nothing there, right? The land was cheap.
It would.
But good that they've been pretty well maintained, right? Because they're wood frame and,
Yeah.
you know, and they're not very fancy buildings. They've lasted 50 years and they're, you know, they're not tear downs. They could be, you know, rehabilitated, restored. They've been well maintained.
One question,
Yeah.
and I know that like that going to the natural gas boilers and the underwriting today, the one thing that concerns us is over time, the delivery charges for natural gas are going to continue to go up significantly. And so especially as more and more people electrify. And so our ability to underwrite these utilities today versus like, say, example, like a distinct geothermal, the investment in some of this stuff may stabilize these projects on the utility side more perhaps than some of the natural gas, just because the entire change to the utility model, especially around natural gas pricing, is going to change over time. It's less and less.
Things to remember.
Good point. End up subsidizing later, so
Yeah.
investing too.
Investing in that. Yeah. Alex, if Rensselaer, in its great industrial heyday, was known for being the source of felt, we think Rensselaer, New York, we think felt. What? Fill in the blank. Troy was the source of.
I know. Conference.
That's it.
City.
Collar City, the shirt collar.
Yeah.
When you used to remember your shirt collar was a separate item of men's clothing?
You remember that? You remember that?
And you had to get your manufacturers of shirt collars. Troy was the shirt collar capital of America.
To save the women work.
And you see?
The only thing that got dirty was the collar.
And the tie was not a sign of fashion. It's actually meant to protect the shirt.
Yeah, it's a good question. For comments on fashion, we turn to our council. Any other questions on this project? This looks like something that there are concerns.
Troy is
Yeah.
a great city.
Troy's a great city.
Thank you. Love this. I do think that geothermal will be a good place. So next time we should push. Lydia, did you work upstate? Maybe. CBC's upstate, where almost 50.
Yeah, he was there. Great. So no further questions. Let's turn to Diana and advance the project. Then we have to come.
Okay, here we go. Now before the HFA members and the HFA Finance and Program Committee are resolutions to be adopted that were transmitted in connection with this item. Assuming the first and second previously entered for HFA and for the Finance Committee, all in favor, please say aye.
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 The motions are carried and the resolution is adopted.
Thanks, everybody.
Item
Thanks.
14.
14 is a resolution of HFA members authorized to make an amount not to exceed $45,064,186 in HFA subsidy funding and an amount not to exceed $1,737,500 in NYSERDA Clean Energy Initiative funds. Here we go again. Third one. For the project known as 753 Classen Avenue, which is in Brooklyn, of course, Kings County. Again, it's a subsidy funding, not bond money. Let's go back to Russell. Sorry, to Russell. Sorry.
750. I live 4 blocks from this property.
You have to recuse yourself.
Fight all the time. It's 753 Classen Avenue. It's a 13-story multifamily rental apartment building. It's located in Crown Heights, in Brooklyn. It's actually, like I said, only 4 blocks from where I live. I see it often. It's not in very good shape. The building was originally created as Mitchell-Lama Affordable Housing in 1965. It was originally deeded to the Brooklyn Jewish Hospital. Was basically created to provide housing for hospital employees and their families. When the Brooklyn Jewish Hospital closed in 1994, DHCR the project began serving staff from the federal sector, now OBH, who's a successor institution, as well as non-hospital low-income families who qualify. In March of 2023, DHCR finally transferred direction of the Housing Company Board fully over to OBH. So now the board is now controlled by OBH. Over years of wear and tear, many of the tenants are low-income families or retirees of the hospital system. Combined with the rental restrictions on the Mitchell-Lama regulations, there's limited rent increases. The project has struggled to maintain sufficient cash flow to meet its expenses, let alone engage in needed comprehensive rehabilitation. Back in 2015, the project applied for and was awarded a $1 million emergency loan from HFA to conduct emergency capital repairs to the roof, boilers, and pay off outstanding water and sewer arrears. This loan was awarded by HFA with the understanding that they need to come up with a comprehensive plan for a full, full capital needs redevelopment, long-term plan. And, it took some time. Since 2015, the project has continued to operate at a deficit due to, like I said, the rent restrictions and limited revenue, increasing operating expenses to maintain the building. They did approve an emergency rent increase in January to help alleviate some future operating deficits. But in the meantime, we engaged with consultant Smith Hensey. They've done a lot of work with many projects, including their willingness to go into some of the most distressed assets that we have is appreciated. They do a very good job. They worked with us on a lot of other deals, and we basically hired them to come up with a redevelopment plan and to help put a team together, qualified engineers and architects and contractors to present something that we could work with. So at over $280,000 per unit in scope of work, it's substantial. The failure of the existing boiler system, the need for comprehensive facade repairs, resident unit balconies, which are currently off limits because they're unsafe, plumbing and electrical work, all of this gives us an opportunity to implement some of our most robust sustainability measures. We're going to do full electrification, electric heat pump domestic water systems, VRF heat pump systems to replace the steam boiler and radiator heating systems, conversion to all electric stoving, LED lighting, Energy Star appliances, low flow plumbing fixtures, further upgrades to the roof, sanitary waste systems, and of course, renovations to all the units, kitchens, bathrooms, floors, windows, the community room and the laundry room, modernization of the elevators, security upgrades, and repairs to the building's parking garage, parking lot, and surrounding site work. It's expected to take about 18 months in total. And it's not cheap, but the results will be fully transformative, and we can hope we can provide a model for other distressed assets, particularly our valuable portfolio of Mitchell-Lama housing, with a guide for meaningful preservation. So this will not only preserve the needed affordable housing in a rapidly gentrifying neighborhood in Brooklyn, but also provide an opportunity to attain the agency's most robust energy efficiency goals for existing buildings through the energy initiative.
All right, Russell, thank you. Questions for Russell on this project?
Hey, one quick piece of it. I mean, it's obviously a total overhaul, but I'm just looking at the repairs and maintenance budget. Is that the prior repairs and maintenance budget in the pro forma, or the because it would seem that if you're going to you are fundamentally changing how this building operates, and so I'm just curious. It's like $700,000 a year, starting with repairs and maintenance, and it just seems high if you're overhauling the entire building.
That's not high anymore.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Insurance?
That's fine. No, I'm fine. Listen, if it's insurance and other things, it just seems like that you're changing the pro forma, what it would look like based on this renovation. I don't know if you guys have a before and after on repairs and maintenance.
Yeah, we like that up.
Bust.
Well, I'm sure some of that is it's a fixing a lemon with a lot of these buildings. It's really expensive to repair stuff on a one-off, but this is an amazing overhaul of the whole thing, which may right-size its operations in some respect. That would change what that looks like.
And maybe part of the problem with starting conditions was not spending enough.
Exactly.
So the delta between what you spent before you do the renovation, what you spent more, is in part sort of exacerbated by the fact you're never spending enough originally.
You're never spending there. It's just a snowball effect.
Right.
Back to your comment about the geothermal investment.
You don't maintain it, what happens?
But that's I think the reason I say it is I live in a 100-year-old building, right? That a co-op. Yes, we have maintenance, but there's a difference fundamentally between co-ops and condos that are 100 years old that have been maintained over time. Our maintenance costs versus buildings that haven't. And so that's where this investment aspect we were talking about in these buildings is massively important, I think. And as you're saying, funding them over time to make sure that you're not allowing them to fall into this.
And here again, let's recognize all of the energy efficiencies.
Yeah, that's great.
Other questions?
James, we are paying a lot of attention to what's happening with recapitalizing reserves, for example, in buildings when they're coming to us from the portfolio. So, we're being mindful about capitalizing them as much as we can now, understanding that it would be.
Got it. Yeah.
Great.
Diana, let's do this.
But do you think, do you think it's cheaper over time to be setting up sort of a subsidy fund for operating and maintenance versus like having to come back for total repairs, like letting stuff fall? Like, is it less expensive for us to be investing over time and supporting them a little bit versus $30-40 million every 15 years?
There's a process. Wouldn't
Yeah.
necessarily have to do that, right?
Okay.
So now we're resetting the rents in such a way that makes sense.
Okay.
So our hope is that our expectation
Yeah.
is that by resetting now, and recognizing what the real costs are, as opposed to the additional underwriting that happened or whatever, that we're putting them on a good path. And also helping them be more capacitated so that they can come for their rent increases when they're needed, right?
That's a big difference. This level of oversight is what de-risks these projects over time. And I think that that's a part of this function that isn't appreciated.
We ready to go?
Yeah.
Improve numbers.
We have a couple little some comments here, Diana, but we're almost ready to.
Okay.
Ready to go now. Let's do it.
Okay, let's do it. Now before the HFA members and the HFA Finance and Program Committee are resolutions to be adopted that were transmitted in connection with this item. Assuming the first and second previously entered for HFA and for the Finance Committee, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motions are carried and the resolutions adopted.
Diana, thank you. Next two items are small building program loan. Bert Black is going to present both projects and going to do one vote for both of Russell. And Julie, thank you very much for your help this morning. Great projects.
All right, thank you. Good morning, everyone. The first is a request to use $3.75 million in small building participation loan funds for the rehabilitation and energy efficiency retrofit of a 5-building, 50-unit complex in Buffalo at 35 East Morris Avenue. Rents here will be affordable at an average of 80% AMI with a mix of 50%, 80%, and 90% AMI units of 1 and 2 bedrooms. The agency's investment will be coupled with a $5.7 million construction and permanent loan from CPC and owner equity. The circa 1935 Art Deco buildings will be converted to all electric and receive a full envelope upgrade with new windows and insulation, as well as installation of rooftop solar arrays to achieve near net zero efficiency. Unit interiors will also be fully updated. All tenant utilities will be included in rent. The project is located just off of Main Street in the Starin Central neighborhood and is walkable to restaurants, a supermarket, a pharmacy, and McCarthy Park. NFTA bus service and the Amherst Metro Rail station are also within a block of the property. Off-street parking is available at the project for up to 40 vehicles. The developer and general contractor here are related entities under the umbrella of E2I, which is a firm focusing on rehab and energy retrofit projects in the Western New York market. E2I recently completed the renovation of a 105-unit complex in Buffalo, as well as a 28-unit building in Grand Island. This will be their first project to use agency funding. 35 East Morris Avenue will contribute to ongoing revitalization near Buffalo's University District corridor along Main Street, joining other recent residential developments, including the renovation of a 202-unit complex and the new construction of 30 townhomes. And so we're excited to recommend this one for small building program funding to help further that momentum. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have on this one.
Thank you. Thank you, Bert. Questions? Joyce?
Yeah, what family size? This building is almost completely one-bedroom apartments. What family size? Is that?
What families I can rent?
Yes, I believe that's, I believe it's one to 3 person households for 1 bedroom.
Yeah.
Okay. Single people who have. Oh, no, I'm not talking about single, but that has a focus of the prospect, 3 people. Yeah, well, it's small.
Any other questions or comments on this? Diana, let's do it.
Okay. Oh, and just for the, I'm not sure I heard, we're going to do 15 and 16 together here, the 2 programs, correct?
Correct.
Great. Now before the HFA members are two resolutions to be adopted that were transmitted in connection with this item. Assuming the first and second previously entered for HFA, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Oh, I'm recused.
Yeah, get Sadie's recusal, please, on the record. Noted. Diana.
Yes, Alex will note that. The motion with the recusals noted of Sadie, the motions are carried, the resolutions adopted.
For the record, I do want to note that these are MBB developers, and if you look at the diverse developer fee, it's like 1.8%. When we look at a lot of our other deals, the diverse developer fee is a lot higher. And I'm just curious, I just want, like, if this is like what we're trying to support, asking, it just seems like they're getting too small of a developer fee compared to, I know there's actually.
They're not tax credit projects.
They're not tax credit projects. I know, but
it's hard in these because you have to just pay it.
Yeah, it just seems like you look across.
Higher cash flow over time, it's not but I hear.
I'm just like looking at equity across our developers that we work with, and wanting, especially if this is highlighted as an MBA developer, and noticing some lower per developer fee that we've seen.
Understood. It's a good point, Jane.
Good point.
Thank you. So we've done that, right? Yes, we just did that, didn't we? So we're at 17. Resolution authorizing the forbearance debt for mills at High Falls in Rochester.
Jason?
Who's doing this one? Jason. Jason?
No, I'm speaking on behalf of Jason.
Okay. Good morning.
Morning.
Prime Minister has a record.
Morning. My name is Betty Bagande. I'm speaking on behalf of Jason Pearson. I'm here today to present the request for your approval for the extension of a mortgage forbearance for one property in our portfolio at High Falls. HCR's statewide asset management unit closely monitors HFA's portfolio of 757 properties for signs of financial distress, particularly since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic. Our portfolio has held up pretty well considering the lingering effects of loss of employment and income that has experienced across the state. Since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, we have received approximately 23 requests for some type of mortgage forbearance, and the agency has granted 3 of them to date. Of the 3, one of them has been able to fully resume its required debt service obligations. However, this particular property, Mills at High Falls in Rochester, which previously was approved a full year of forbearance, but only used 6 months of it, has requested a renewal of its forbearance. Staff has determined a reduction of monthly principal and interest payments is again warranted based on a review of its financial condition. The project's financial condition has generally been weak since its original 2007 financing with the agency. The property has experienced significant loss of rental income as a result of down payment and eviction and then the eviction moratorium. The resulting decline in revenue combined with increased expenses associated with the operating and maintaining an aging property has resulted in a debt service coverage of 0.32. The cost of reducing this mortgage principal and interest payments will be approximately $34,000 per month, as well as the servicing fee and replacement reserve deposits for a period of 1 year. Home Leasing, which is the managing agent, has engaged the Urban League to assist in repositioning those up at High Falls, and the agency's finance and development team is actively working on a longer-term solution for this property. This forbearance action will not impact HFA's ability to make payments to its bondholders. And the agency's consultant, Painmaker, has analyzed the assumed mortgage payment reduction for a period of 1 year. He confirmed that the mortgage modification will not necessitate necessitate drawing upon any debt service reserves. Happy to answer any questions.
This answered the one I had, which was the forbearance period.
Yeah.
Staff to see.
Any questions?
I have a couple, Diana. Sorry if you can't hear. What,
Yeah.
you have a-
How old is the building?
Well, it was financed in 2007.
Yeah, but when was it built?
Have to check by.
That was the newest new construction in 2007.
Yeah, so the problem isn't the position of the building, the problem is simply cash flow.
That's correct.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of tenants.
You said they're bringing in what's who's being brought in to rent that property?
Well, home leasing is the, working with, the Urban League of Rochester.
Right. So, yeah, yeah.
I think interesting the model. Like, I'd love to hear more about whatever. Like, there's obviously delinquency challenges. The Urban League has like a methodology, or there's think of like a methodology to help tenants catch up, whether it's finding new opportunities, jobs, or whatever they want. I'm just curious what that looks like. That's interesting.
The housing parties really good says this is 23% of every delinquency of 23%. So
Problems
aren't paying rent.
Yeah.
It's from
Very
there.
high medications.
Yeah, I think a lot of.
Why is it?
The population, and increased, expenses, fixed expenses, but I believe it's, secret that they have.
Why do we think we German leaders? Why do we try to families?
I believe so. Hopefully they can work with, home leasing to, get this property more better stabilized.
What we sort of need to take the staff's recommendation here to find it.
Yeah, they have asked for the help. And originally they'd asked for 1 year, but they only did it for 6 months and they received full payment. But now they find themselves in a place where tenants are not paying rent.
Is the underwriting for this assumed so that tenants will pay?
High percentage of them.
I think the Urban League would work with the tenants who are not paying to try to get them, figure out what's going on.
Did anyone take a look at the economic demographics of the area? Have they changed considerably?
I don't think it's changed. That area, I'm assuming has had some difficulty in Rochester area with, especially during the onset of the pandemic. So we've had properties come in for a forbearance, and most of them, all the properties have been in the upstate area.
It's downtown Rochester.
Yeah.
The question becomes, are they moving? Are businesses leaving? Are more people moving into the area? Is there a higher impact? Are families leaving? More single people? I know all of those things taken into consideration.
Businesses left.
Right.
And that's been replaced there.
No, but
There's been some replacement.
That's yesterday.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Financing a lot of.
Education and medical centers are developing a good. Just to replace the Kodaks. No. Yes.
Yeah, this I think is pretty much.
This happened during the pandemic. People got way behind. And then they couldn't evict, or it's all backed up. We've seen a lot of it in our construction portfolio. Not so much upstate, but in New York City, where then people haven't been evicted and they're not paying, and then it takes a long time. Or to figure out how to help them get.
Yes, assuming we approve, the forbearance,
For an update in 6 months. Yeah, I feel a little uncomfortable, like sitting here, not just about good luck for a year, you know. But maybe
That's a good idea. Yeah, it's a new intervention, and so
yeah.
depends on what's going on there. Or, yeah.
Also be helpful though in 6 months to see the best from there.
Right, just a general update on how the building's performing.
It also,
Changed our underwriting vacancy rate significantly. Really, going forward, we 5%.
That was
It's very comfortable. We're now like
I think that that's the interesting thing, given the fact that the number of projects that we just approved in Rochester, that is this going to be like a problem for the Rochester market, or is it just immediate for this project? So the 6 months will be like, oh, we have intervention. Like,
what we're seeing is that new projects where you're putting new tenants in.
These tenants all moved to that nice new building with a courtyard. You got an empty building over here. It's not that far away.
To do that, it's really not that far away.
It'll make checkerboard easy.
There's also an element of it.
Ken, can I go ahead?
I think you probably should, although we're going to ask if you can work into the resolution that the staff come back in 6 months to give us an update on hopefully the turnaround of the performance of the building.
Okay. Alex and I will work.
On the resolution, I think you'll find us supportive.
Okay, so now before the HFA members is a resolution to be adopted that will transfer the connection with this item. We will include in that resolution the 6-month update on the status of this project. Assuming the first and second previously entered for HFA, all in favor, please say aye. The resolution with the amendment as noted orally.
Aye.
The motion is carried, the resolution adopted.
Good, thanks, everybody. We're going to move to an AHC consent item. It's number 18 in our agenda, resolution authorizing the award of grant funds for certain projects. Thank you. Diana, let's do that one. 18.
Okay, so now before AHC is a resolution that was transmitted in connection with this item. This is regard to the resolution authorizing award of grant funds for certain projects as spelled out in the board book. Assuming the first and second previously recorded, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried, the resolution adopted.
Great. Now we're going to do some items from the HTFC agenda this morning. Number one, first item on the agenda is the minutes of the board meeting that we held back on August 10th, 2023, last month. Minutes shall be deemed approved, absent corrections from members and directors. Everybody good with minutes? Okay. Number two, resolution authorizing an affordable home ownership opportunity program award for Habitat for Humanity Capital District.
Can I just jump up for the HTFC presenters? We're an hour behind on the schedule. So if you could just please be terse.
Read the title of the item and we'll put it to a vote.
And let the board ask questions if they want.
Sounds good.
Hello, the board.
Hi, everybody. Good morning.
Your questions.
Great. So this first one is an award of $1.5 million in income subsidy to construct 10 attached townhomes just northeast of downtown Albany. Lots are currently vacant. The homes are sized for families, so it's 5 3-bedroom, 5 4-bedroom, sort of in line with how Habitat normally does their work. And the lender here is CPC. Average sales prices will be $67,000, which is a relatively high AMI in Albany as compared to the market. Actually, it's to 36% of AMI, so getting much lower AMI target than we normally can through this program. The homes will be built and marketed by Habitat, sort of a fully integrated process here. And they'll be all electric, substantial insulation, meeting all of our sustainability goals. The only other thing I'd highlight here is that we have an emphasis through the term sheet on sort of concentrated impact. And Habitat's done a lot of work in this neighborhood specifically through previous projects. So we're happy to sort of support them and continue to make that impact just outside of downtown Albany.
Great. Right. And thanks for the succinct presentation. Any questions on this? Have that project development? Sadie can recuse herself. Well done. Diana, let's do it.
Okay, now before the HTFC members is a resolution authorizing an affordable Homeownership Opportunity Program awarded for Habitat for Humanity Capital District. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the HTFC board. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Let's go to number 3, resolution authorizing affordable homeownership program award for the Leetmore Development Group and Iris Development.
Great. So this is the More IHOP. This is an award of $7.8 million in IHOP subsidy to a joint venture of 2 MBE affordable housing developers. The More Development Group, which is based in Harlem and owns over 1,000 affordable housing units in the area. Iris, which is more of a newcomer to the New York market. They're primarily active in New Orleans, but they're getting as well. There are a variety of subordinate sources here working with HPE through their open door program. The sites were actually awarded by HPE to Lemoore through what they call the new infill homeownership opportunities program a couple of years ago. We'll be constructing 48 cooperative units. These tend a little smaller than we typically see through the AHOP program. And that's because, and this is sort of an issue that also has resulted in higher total development costs for this project on a per unit basis. These sites are very, very tight. They're infill sites in Harlem, like almost comically small. And so more one bedrooms than we typically see in the higher per unit costs. The participating lender is Chase Bank, and the homes are regulated, some at 80% and some at 100% of AMI, with an average sales price of AMI of 75%. The 4 buildings, once constructed, will be placed in 2 co-ops. So there's sort of 2 clusters. 2 of them are further south at 133rd and 134th Street. And the second cluster is sort of on Frederick Douglass Boulevard. And the project will receive an Article 11 tax exemption for 40 years.
Yes.
What is the length in terms of the construction?
In terms of the construction loan, I think it's going to be a 2-year period.
I just suggest that that's probably not really enough. The average construction loan in New York City in our portfolio is 5 years at this point. So you might, and I would be surprised if Chase would only do a 48 month. I would just go back. And it's not just that they build it, it's that the take a look. So it doesn't impact your money, but it will affect the lender. So I would just check on that.
Thank you. Yeah, get that up.
Great. Thank you, Sadie. Good advice. Anything else? Diana, let's do this one.
Okay. Let's see. Now before HTFC members is a resolution authorizing affordable homeownership opportunity program award for the Lemmer Development Group and Iris Development. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the HTFC board. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Let's do number 4, resolution authorizing an increase for Community Development Block Grant CARES Act award for Community Services Program, Inc. Madeline does this.
Hi, everybody. So this is for a $330,345 increase to address some cost increases identified during the bidding phase of the project. The project is a rehab of 64 units of senior housing in Wappingers Falls, which is in Dutchess County.
All right, very good. Any questions? Diana, turn to you.
Okay, that's pretty easy. Now before the HTFC members is a resolution authorizing an increase to a Community Development Block Grant CARES Act award for Community Services Program, Inc. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the HTFC board. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Thank you. Let's do number 5, resolution authorizing a Community Development Block Grant award for the town of St. Armand. Back to you, Madeline.
Sure. The town of St. Armand, which is in Essex County, has requested additional funds for a funding gap caused by rising material costs. The town is using the funds to complete accessibility modifications and has requested an additional $66,650 to complete the project. So we would like to request an amendment of the existing grant agreement and to increase the total award to $300,000.
Seems reasonable to me. Everybody all right? Let's do it.
Okay, now before the HTFC members is a resolution authorizing a community development block grant award for the town of St. Armand. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the HTFC board, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
6 is a resolution authorizing a public housing modernization program award. Rob's got this one.
Thank you. Good morning,
All
everyone.
right.
Good morning, everyone. I'm here today to present to you a request for the Little Falls Housing Authority in the amount of $2 million in public housing modernization. The agency's public housing portfolio has 8 remaining state-aided public housing authorities consisting of 16 developments with a total of 1,746 units. The public housing portfolio provides housing to over 3,100 individuals. This request for the Little Falls Housing Authority is to aid in the redevelopment of their 3 remaining state-aided developments. The 3 developments contain a total of 160 units that serve both family and senior housing populations. The request for funds today will be utilized for window replacement, electrical panel replacement, housing quality standard remediation work, pre-development and redevelopment expenses that are in accordance with the 2019 Notice of Funding Availability that the agency issued. The Housing Authority is currently working with Edgewater Development on the strategy for the potential preservation of the 3 remaining developments in the authority's portfolio. The agency continues to work with the remaining state-aided housing authorities on their preservation efforts. I'm happy to answer any.
All right. That's pretty straightforward. Everybody good? Diana, let's make it happen.
Okay, now before the HTFC members is a resolution authorizing a public housing modernization program award. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the HTFC board, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried, the resolution adopted.
7 is a resolution authorizing the award of preventive troubled asset program funds for Homefront Development Corporation. Preventive troubled asset program funds.
No. I think it's just Margaret.
Who's got this?
Good afternoon.
Say that.
We are here to still morning? Okay. I'm making the presentation to request an award of $2.6 million under the Preventative Trouble Asset Program, PTAP, for 3 homefront development projects: Westfield Heights, Austin Perry, Lufkin Commons. All 3 buildings have a population of elderly/frail elderly households. The PTAP program, for those that are not familiar, was established to respond to emergency exigent health and safety items at various projects within our portfolio to make sure that they remain healthy and safe for our tenants. Currently, the Homefront, due to capacity constraints, is looking to sell the properties, but they cannot be sold until we remediate physical and stabilize the property itself. We have enlisted Reagan Development Corp. And the Michaels organization. Reagan will be part of the overseeing the development budget to do the mold remediation, site mitigative measures, window replacements, which are causing moisture, mold issues in the building, removal of foundation, attic insulation, and putting in new, replacing outdated smoke detectors, replacing roof replacements at 2 of the buildings. Again, all to remediate the mold and the moisture conditions at the properties. So with that, we are also addressing the financial soundness of the building. Reagan submitted a successful project-based voucher application for all 3 buildings, but in order to realize the project-based award, we must complete all the housing quality standard items that are present at the building right now.
Excellent. Questions? Joyce wants to go to Little Falls.
Yeah, I want
Field
to
trip.
visit.
All right. I think we're all good with this one, Diana, so let's make it happen.
Okay, now before the HTFC members is a resolution authorizing award of prevented troubled asset program funds for Homefront Development Corporation, assuming the first and second previously entered for the HTFC board. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried, the resolution adopted.
Thanks, Diana. The next one is a resolution authorizing funding of an HTFC imperiled policy project policy.
That is me again, and we are requesting from the board to, for our HTF Imperil Project Policy, to continue the 3-year cycle of replenishment. The fund was established to preserve our existing properties that are imperiled by disaster or other circumstances beyond their ability to remedy. The policy requires that currently that emergency expenditures up to $50,000 can be approved immediately from the approval of the chief strategy officer, and then she would report back to the board at their next scheduled meeting. The items that would be considered under the emergency program: middle of winter and a boiler going down. Project does not have the financial ability to replace it. We would go in with the emergency imperil project funding. The request is the continuation of the 3-year recycle of replenishment for fiscal year 24, 25, and 26 in the amount of $100,000 annually. Any leftover funds from one fiscal year would be rolled into the other, and then an additional amount to bring it back up to the $100,000.
Great.
Are there any questions?
I'm sold, but I think James.
One question. It just seems like that's $75,000. Should that number be
Not a lot of boilers.
Should it be larger? And also the question is you don't want someone's boiler to break in the middle of the winter. So I know we're getting some benchmarking asset management. Can we also monitor this stuff? So we're like there's tech out there, for example, where you can take photos of your maybe an average looking at sort of more ways to plan. But this seems really it's $100,000 for $75,000.
So why don't we, I would ask maybe, can we approve this and then we can come back and we can look at like a resizing, whether we can put policy into recess to resize it.
Yeah.
Great idea.
Okay, I'll take it from here. Ken?
Diana, 1 second, please. We had a comment.
Right, sorry.
Yeah.
We use this for like emergencies.
Okay.
Like the boiler went down. Fortunately, our boilers don't go down that often in the winter, but when they do, obviously we jump on it. Keep that warm for. This is really like.
Okay. You still want to leave someone with that's $101,000 boiler, and they're like, it's no winter, we have to authorize nothing.
Well, let's take Ruth Ann's suggestion. Approve this so we can continue the program, but then think about the right scope.
Yeah.
Just to be sure we have enough, fuel for the boat.
What about the applications for programs?
Question?
Really? Maybe that's because people don't know about it. Don't mark this one. Talk about moral hazard. Diana, let's do it.
Okay, now before the HTFC members is a resolution authorizing the funding of the HTFC Imperiled Project Policy, assuming the first and second previously entered for the HTFC board. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Great, and we'll note, it doesn't have to be part of the resolution, but, Ruth Ann has pledged to bring this item back for future consideration, with respect to the size of, if it's needed.
Yep.
Right. Great. Number 9 is the resolution authorizing a sub-recipient agreement with the city of Long Beach. Hey, city manager, who's the city manager of Long Beach? Got an injection here, younger than youngest elected in New York State. The first elected city manager on the He's older now. That was many years ago.
So the Office of Resilient Homes and Community seeking authorization to award the City of Long Beach $16.5 million for the Long Beach Consolidated Project that represents 10% of the cost of the project, 90% of the cost of being funded by FEMA Hazard Mitigation Grants. The City of Long Beach has been selected by RHC to implement the Long Beach Consolidated Project as a subrecipient in partnership with Nassau County. Nassau County has been doing the infrastructure, the water and sewer rehabilitation throughout Nassau County. So the City of Long Beach is leveraging Nassau County's expertise. This project is funded by the National Disaster Resiliency, the Rebuild by Design Flooding with Pay Program competitive grant from TIDE. The Long Beach Consolidated Project will convert the Long Beach Water Pollution Control Plant, the current facility that they use to deal with effluents in the city of Long Beach, into an elevated pump station and connect the facility to under the Hassocks marshlands to the Big Heart Sewage Treatment Plant, another RHC project. The goal here is to remove effluents from the Hassocks, which will allow for the restoration of wetlands when the nitrogen is reduced from waterway in heavy rain events.
Yeah, cool. 60 of the city manager. 10% of the big project. Any questions about this?
It's a good project.
Good project. One of our two Long Island experts jumped in. Important infrastructure for Long Beach, which has suffered mightily, obviously, Sandy, and still rebuilding stuff. Right? Army Corps.
Is it every
That is correct. Typically, it's a local match, but as part of this project design, starting about 2019, when we redesigned the rebuild by design for the MBBA program, it was decided that restoration of the marshlands, the attenuate storm surge against the mainland, and that could be a component of this project, and thus we can make the match in.
The modernization of the plans takes into consideration the likelihood of future storms.
Absolutely. The reason why this project is starting construction now is because we actually took the opportunity about a year and a half ago, because we designed the project and then they visited yet again, in part because there was substantial flooding during 1% of the rainstorm in the city of Long Beach. So we actually elevated the plan further than the prior to was the baseline, the factor for not only the 100-year event, but also the additional issues that emerged from that.
Yeah.
Your event is no longer.
Yeah. I mean, it's FEMA makes us pay attention to that. But yeah, I'm talking about a community affected by climate change. So Ronald J. Walsh Jr. is the acting city manager of Long Beach. So we'll approve this item subject to a thank you note. For Mr. Walsh.
Personally signed.
All right. Diana, any other questions?
Not a signature.
Important infrastructure for us to support, to be sure. Are there any further questions?
Ready? Okay. Now before the HTFC members is a resolution authorizing a subrecipient agreement with the City of Long Beach. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the HTFC board. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried. The resolution adopted.
Great, terrific. I just want to quickly pause to see in the interest of time what Alex would think about doing 10 and 11 together. They're basically procurements. I would love it. Me too. 10 is a resolution authorizing an amendment to council of the AKRF without a competitive award process. And we're doing a similar thing proposed in item 11, authorizing an amendment to a contract with WSP USA Solutions, also without a competitive award process. If people have any questions about why we are, I know you have any,
I'm joined by my colleague, I would.
all right, good. But we do, this happens from time to time, and I always find that you have good justifications for proceeding without a competitive award process. Usually they're extensive procurements or they're unique, so uniquely qualified vendors. But anybody have any questions about them? We both staff support. Alex, you good with that? Yep. Great. So let's approve both of these together. Diana.
Okay, now before the HTFC members are two resolutions. One authorizing an amendment to the contract with AKRF without a competitive award process. And the second one is an amendment to a contract with WSP USA Solutions, again without a competitive award process. In the case of both of these resolutions, assuming the first and second previously entered for the HTFC board, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
And again, just, thank you, Diana.
The motions are carried and the resolution adopted.
Thank you. Sorry that I cut you off. But again, both of these are amendments to contracts with existing vendors we've already been working with. And we wouldn't do this for somebody we didn't know, but I think that we can trust staff judgment in proceeding with these amended contracts with vendors that we're already working with. So now I think we get to wrap up 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Thank you both. 12 is a review of seeker concur actions. 13, review of seeker type 2 actions. 14, review internal audit reports the Office of Resilient Homes and Communities. 15, annual review contract contract with Insurance Advisors LLC. 16, annual review of contract with Frank Consulting Group. And 17, review of the current agency procurements and contracts in the lobbying restricted period. So those are informational items, no presentations unless anybody has questions. Hearing none, I can say this. There's being no further business for HFA, HTFC, AHC boards. Diana will please ask for motions and second to adjourn this morning's meetings.
Okay, assuming the first and second previously entered for the HFA, HTFC, and AHC boards, all in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
The motions are carried, the meetings are adjourned, and our next meetings are October 14th.
Alex is smiling because he's not sure. I'm not sure. We're working on dates.
All right.
Well, since it's 10 o'clock, it's time to start our Sunny May meeting at 11. Good thing my watch stopped several hours. All right. Well, we made up a little bit of time. Katie, thank you very much. Anyone else from HTFC, MBBA, HFA, James, we thank James, we thank Sadie, we thank Andy Sanfilippo, still licking his wounds after the overtime loss by his beloved Bills last night.
How about that, Aaron Rodgers?
How about that, Aaron Rodgers? Neither. He really is.
Not you too.
Aaron Rodgers.
There goes the Super Bowl.
So let's initiate the proceedings. We are running behind. Apologies to our members of the Sunny May board. You might not believe it sitting here, but we did start early at 8:30 today and still had so much material that and special presentations that we're running behind. Again, meetings so much. I apologize. We can't get away. We can't get away.
Okay, I'll get it started.
Let's do it.
Okay, I will ask for a motion for the Sunny May board.
So moved. Second.
Okay, second. I will now ask for individual votes from each Sunny May board member. I will accept the previous votes of Chairman Adams, Ms. Visnoskis, Ms. Miller, and Mr. Olzak, all of whom voted to open up the earlier HFA HTFC meeting. Professor Ford.
Yes.
Mr. Freeman
Yes.
and Mr. Patel.
Aye.
I will ask for a motion for the Sunny May Mortgage Insurance Committee. Do I have a second? Okay, second.
So moved.
I will now ask for individual votes from each Sunny May Mortgage Insurance Committee member. I will accept the prior votes of Chairman Adams, Mrs. Noskis, and Mr. Olzak. Mr. Capel.
Aye.
I will ask for a motion for the Sunny May Audit Committee. Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Jesse.
Okay. I will now ask for individual votes from each Sunny May Audit Committee member. I will accept the prior votes of Chairman Adams, Ms. Miller, and Mr. Olzak. I ask for a motion for Sunny May Governance Committee.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
I will now ask for individual votes from each Sunny May Governance Committee member. I will accept the prior votes of Chairman Adams, Mrs. Noskis, Mr. Olzak, and Mr. Capel. So I think I just need Mr. Curtis. No, wait a minute.
No, we're
I
good.
just need Mr. Capel. Okay. Done.
Thank you very much for opening up our meetings and our committee meetings, Diana. First item today is the approval of the minutes of the Audit, Governance, and Mortgage Insurance Committee meetings and of the SONYMA board meetings. Absent corrections from directors, I'll deem those minutes approved. Let me pause to see corrections from the minutes of our prior meeting. Hearing none, and in the interest of time, we will approve all the SONYMA minutes in one action to talk about government efficiency. The next item on the audit committee agenda is a resolution recommending the approval of the administrative budget request and financial plan for 2024. We can ask Daryl Johnson to step forward. He has done this several times this morning. If SONYMA members have questions about the proposed financial plan. But Daryl, let's start, I think let's just rather than ask you to do the whole thing, let's see what questions our SONYMA board members may have.
Okay, so I can, so we bring into the board the administrative budget request for fiscal 23-24. The total request for all the agencies is about 107.5 million. SONYMA's piece is about 39%. Okay, SONYMA funds this request through money it makes through two businesses, single family and the MIF. Single family operates on a spread where it earns revenue on the income it earns on the interest on the mortgages, less the expense it pays on the bonds. That's all within the indenture, but a portion of it is allowed to be used to pay for the administrative expenses. On the MIF side, it generates revenues through a few sources. It's insurance application fees, the insurance premiums, and the mortgage recording tax. And again, a portion of that is used to pay for the cost of the administrative budget. So that's a very brief summary of, how the administrative budget request works. And I have any questions you may have.
Just the obvious gaping hole in all this is the reduction in mortgage recording tax revenues. It's down like 50% from last year.
And I'm aware that probably Mike Freeman or we do that now.
I think it's a good question. Yeah. Can you come up, Mike, and just, I think, we know what happens when you have less capacity, there's less, we can do less insurance, but.
So for the first 5 months of the state fiscal year, which commenced in April, we've collected 46.4 million in mortgage recording tax. And in the same 5 months last year, we collected 88.5 million. Annualizing the 46 million, we would wind up with 111 million in surtax compared with 182 million last year. So it's a decrease of 70 million. Last year, we had excess balance of 54.6 million. So we'll have, I anticipate, no excess balance this year, which means that all of the releases from the MIF, releases agreed to by DOB and the legislature, will come from the project account. Whereas this year, the total release was 97 million, of which 54.6 million came from excess balance and only 42.4 million came from project.
So we're good. We can clear our nut as long as we don't send anything up to Albany.
Well, less than last year.
Mike, but isn't there also, just because of high interest rates and other factors, a decrease in applications for the insurance? A little less volume?
A little.
Okay. But not as much as a $70 million loss, right?
Right.
Okay.
A lot of our volume is driven by HFA.
Well, Dave, thanks for flagging it. We see it in the reports, and to do the 5 month to 5 month comparison is a wake up call, right? And more broadly speaks to a decline in obviously mortgage activity all across the state. It does tell you what happens in a high interest rate environment where otherwise there's been a consumer demand, right? For homes.
Yes.
But thank you for that. Daryl, anything you want that you would add to what Mike said, or?
No.
Okay. Well, it's
just this is a general question. I don't want to go line by line, but perhaps you forward that information. budget that we're speaking about right now compared to, let's say, the last year or two? How does that?
Right. Well, typically we try to increase no more than 2% on our ordinary expenses. The other category in the budget, I think it's on page 10 of the memo, where we have items that we call extraordinary expenses. It's really a misnomer. It should be other or initiatives. That's about 5.6 million, and that's to cover some initiatives of the agency, such as the housing search functionality increase for our website. There's an IT cloud initiative to try to move all of our physical hardware to the cloud, trying to make it. There's also a benchmarking software that the agency wants to initiate to sort of track a lot of the key statistics that they may have one later on. But again, the ordinary expenses, we try to keep to 2%. Those are the year-over-year expenses that we typically have: rent, legal, salary, et cetera. And we have met that 2% threshold.
Some other items that come out like cloud.
Correct.
Would these be categorized as like one-off kinds of?
Well, the initial.
They'll have to be maintained.
Well, that's true. And the initial cost would be a one-off. So there's obviously a cost to buying the software and having it implemented. But then going forward, there'll be ongoing costs to maintain it. Those would be categorized. Those ongoing costs would be categorized as ordinary.
Going back to ordinary.
Yes.
Well, there's a little, you will recall, a little history to this 2% number. Governor Cuomo, now a good number of years ago, imposed a 2% property tax cap across localities all across the state. And to be consistent with imposing a 2% cap, he basically said, well, we at the state will, in our own way, limit our the growth of state expenses by 2%. Because we're not gonna, if you think about it politically, we're not gonna do this to localities and not impose that similar discipline on ourselves. And so it's my general sense, I'm no longer employed by state government, that Governor Hochul has continued this idea of agency spending, keep your agency spending with a 2% increases annually, right, Darrell? Whether that's a memo or not, there's this 2% pattern. And if you were to take $5.6 million, sorry if I'm giving away the story here, of what we're calling special extraordinary expenses, you blow through the 2%. So you look at those expenses, and your point's really important. Yeah, some of them are kind of one shots, and we can treat them separately outside the 2% as long as DOB says it is okay. And I'm sure they do, because Darrell's already talked to DOB. But they can cause that in years coming, they will cause new ongoing expenses, which will push the 2% and squeeze something else out of the equation. I think you're absolutely right. Is my overview there, Darrell? Perfect. All right. Just want to remind people it's not really an arbitrary figure. It's really interesting. Governor Hochul continues, I think, to believe in that. And look, speak to your local governments. Not so. No one has ever liked it. School districts don't like it at all.
My next question, of course, is going to betray my age one more time. Are we talking about Cuomo the first or Cuomo second?
No. You're going back to 2011, 2012. Okay, thank you. All right. Any other questions for Darrell?
Just the communications portion of it that went up 100%. Takes into consideration the integration, testing.
Yes, it does. It does. And also, over the last several years, we've integrated with a lot of DHCR people here at the agency. And that's what costs for a lot of more infrastructure, communication, and wire lines, and everything else that we need to run the organization.
I want to commend you. I think it's really hard to do what you're doing, Darrell. And I think, just reflecting on the 2%, there's nothing like that in the city of New York, for example, right? And so you see, you can't look back to 2022 where you were at $96 million. Now you're only at 101. Like, that's really hard to do in this inflationary environment and with wage pressure, which we talked about. Just the biggest cost here, of course, our payroll, right?
Well, it is a collective effort.
It's remarkable that you're able to do it, and I don't, whatever you end up calling the below the line special costs, it's understandable that you describe them that way, because it's got to be impossible to make that 2% goal. So I think you did a great job. We take action on this? Do we not? Audit committee, yeah. Audit committee. Back to you, Diana.
Okay. Let's go. I'm sorry.
Item 2, the budget.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I was looking ahead. Now before the Sunny May Audit Committee is a resolution that was transmitted in connection with this item. Assuming the first and second previously recorded, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried. The resolution adopted.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Daryl. Next item on the agenda is approval of internal audits follow-up review of the 2022 audit reports. Fanny Babayeva will present. And again, we'll focus on members' questions because the materials were distributed.
I think there were two items that are included in the audit committee book. One was a follow-up audit for the prior reports. And the other is did an audit.
All right, Diana, let's take care of those. And by all means, we should say this, that if you review the material and see the audit, these are follow-up audits, after the meeting or want to call Ruthann or the staff or email with questions. But let's put them on the record. Diana?
Yeah, I think the audio cut out again. So we're going to do Babayeva's two reports together, approving those. Is that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
in the interest of time, let's do them together.
Perfect. Now before the Sunny May Audit Committee are resolutions that were transmitted in connection with this item. The first is regarding the approval of internal audits follow-up review of 2022 audit reports. And the second is approval of internal audit report on office safety and security. Assuming the first and second previously recorded, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motions are carried. The resolution is adopted.
Thank you. Next item on our agenda this morning is approval of independent audit contracts with Ernst & Young LLP, our outside auditors.
And I think this is an extension of the existing contract with Ernst & Young.
Correct. Do we have any questions, or should we do like the prior one, go to approval? If members have further follow-up, we'll address those.
Unless the Sunny May board members have questions on that one. That was approved by MBBA and HFA.
Let's do it.
Okay. Now before the Sunny May Audit Committee is a resolution was transmitted in connection with this item. Assuming the first and second previously recorded, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motions are carried. The resolution adopted.
The remaining items on the agenda are informational. Financial statement update, second quarter fiscal 23, third quarter fiscal 23. Budget financial plan for the second quarter fiscal 23. Thank you again to Daryl and team. Independent auditors, Ernst & Young's presentation, the audit plan. And that is a PowerPoint presentation that is a good outline of what they propose to do. And indeed, Representative Ernst & Young is here to present their audit plan. If anybody has questions about that. Anyway, take a look at the audit plan. It's a pretty typical proposal for our annual audit. No questions on that. We can move to the Governance Committee agenda. We've already taken care of the minutes, so there's 7 items for approval by the Governance Committees. First, approval of the Hosted Technology Service Agreement with ProLink Solutions Inc., the contract with Sierra for SAP Application Management Services, or AMS, and approval of the contract with Amazon Web Services, formerly known as approval of the Sunny May Custody Service Agreement with the Bank of New York Mellon, the HFA Sunny May Financial Reporting Service contract with Bloomberg, annual review of the data licensing service contract with Bloomberg, annual review of the financial service contract for arbitrage rebate calculation services. Next, approval to extend the critical source contract with Edward Daniels Group for professional and temporary staff and consultant services. Approval of contracts with firms in the HTFC pre-qualified list of firms for the provision of information technology, temporary staffing consultant services, or IT consultant services. Another is approval of the agency's financial printing contract with Image Master LLC, and HFA's contract with Sustainalytics for climate bond certification services. Also, we have before us approval and annual review of information or IT services, various contractual agreements. Approval of the master services agreement with M&T Bank and the annual review of Sunny Mae Express contract with Conduit Mortgage Services and the Sunny Mae contract with Emphasis. Now,
And again, Ken, on this, a number of these contracts they're joint. HFA and HFA. They've already been approved by the HFA and AHC side of the house. The Sunny Mae one here is the master service.
the M&T would have been our master servicer for many years, I think.
Yeah.
But let's pause now to see if Sunny Mae directors have questions about any of these proposed contracts or renewals. I would thank you for pointing out the ones that are specific to Sunny Mae. I think that's really just the last one. Correct. Having read all these before since 8:30 in the morning. Conduit comes up every year, as does M&T Bank. Great. Well, if there are no questions, Dinah, please take, you've got, can we vote them as, we have to vote them by the time. We can vote them as a group. And Dinah, if you'll help us do that, we will be in your debt.
There we go. So we will take one vote on all of the 7 foregoing contracts that Ken identified. And now before the Sunny Mae Governance Committee are resolutions that were transit connection with this item relating to the 7 contracts. Assuming the first and second previously recorded, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motions are carried and the resolution adopted.
Great, thanks, everybody. The remaining governance committee items are informational. We have the annual review of contracts with One Benefit Resource Inc. for administrative services of the Qualified Transportation Expense Benefit Plan. That sounds like that thing, Ruth Ann, where you get to ride the subway to discount.
Yeah, but
How
it
about
is.
that? Transit check or something like that. They changed the name. Actuarial services contract with Financial Integrity Resource Management LLC. Contracts with ADP, automatic payroll processing for payroll processing services. An annual review of the advertising placement marketing consultant service contract that we have with Dixon Schwebel Advertising. That's important, and members have asked about that before. That's the company that helps us market the services of Sunny Mae to the public, so that first-time home buyers, learn about how we can help them acquire that home. Right, Alex?
Yes.
Very important work. I believe that the advertising marketing of Sunny Mae programs has been a topic of interest, and as I mentioned, it's statewide. It's advertising. It's super important that people are aware of what Sunny Mae will make available. Any questions on that? Yes.
What platforms are being used?
A good question. Ruth Ann, do we have somebody who can talk about it?
And the reason I ask is I certainly don't proclaim to profess rather to have access to all media.
But I remember seeing these out in the subway years ago. Sunny Mae advertised on the right.
Subway,
Now
that's
you
very
can't hear it.
expensive.
I am indeed.
No, but I'm saying, so what is,
It's a great question.
what about, because the fact that I haven't seen anything is not meaningful in and of itself. But where do you use promotional marketing activities find themselves? Because the corollary question is, how do people who are interested this?
Well, there wasn't one there, so I just wanted to use more like.
Yeah.
Nellie?
Hello.
It's a voice. We have a voice.
Yeah. Hello, can you hear me? It's Anne Marie Agnelli.
Yes, we have a voice attached to a body.
Great.
We have
Remember
two.
Gerald Ford who runs Sunny Mae?
Good morning, everybody. Okay, that's afternoon. You've been here a long time. Sorry.
No, it's
Still morning.
Still morning.
11:55.
It was my relative.
I've been here a long time.
We're related, right?
That's right, cousin.
It's full disclosure. That's not true.
That'll help.
That's a question about the marketing.
Yeah, very briefly to recap. Let's start with the note that I obviously don't see everything that's out there with any particular promotional activity, but I am out there looking at various platforms for school or for work and what have you. And the fact that I haven't seen anything promoting Sunny Mae is not meaningful in and of itself. But the question was, where is it being, where or how is it being promoted, particularly in the New York City area, which is not because this is home buying taking place here. Obviously, home ownership is being really good. But that condense the question: where do we see those advertisements, marketing activities showing up?
So it's all throughout social media, everywhere from Facebook, Google searches. The company that is specific and targeted marketing, and perhaps because you are not our target audience, you're not seeing that. We're quite strategic in them. And so Google, Facebook, paid searches. If you are doing a search for a realtor, right, and you're a first-time home buyer, you will see that display ad for SONYMA services. We do evaluate on a monthly basis, regionally, to make sure that our advertising is being saturated in markets throughout the state, but also
Okay, so if I'm in the process of looking
Yes.
back, then I probably would run into it.
That's right. So
But if I'm not, because it never even occurred to me that I could buy it, where do let's come across information?
So our targeted or keyword search marketing is based on first-time home buyers, but we're also doing marketing to particular groups. For example, single parents, things like that. So if you're doing searches that are based on the profile or our target marketplace that have nothing to do with real estate, to a certain degree, we'll also see SONYMA.
Okay, so obviously when we're looking at Black communities, probably here in New York City, not probably definitely throughout the state, the church community has a major communication. Make someplace along the line.
So not in our paid advertising in that way, but separately in terms of our outreach. We don't do social media advertising that's based on religious organizations, but we do outreach directly here, not through our advertising partner, to religious organizations. And we have some speakers attend. We also have ongoing communications with religious institutions, all types around the state, notifying some.
Last question, just in terms of working with elected officials in that regard, because I'd imagine, Assemblywoman Jones, if she were to have activity, just meeting on home ownership and have representatives from the SONYMA present, they'd probably get pretty good attendance. Perhaps more than if SONYMA was trying to do it on its own.
We do that all the time. In fact, yes, we have 2 events next week on Long Island So we do that all across the state. We wait, unfortunately, for elected officials to invite us, but we have fairly good coverage around the state. We have those.
Wait to get invited.
We do. We want to be invited.
I don't mean to grill you on it, but why would you?
We don't specifically, it's true. We don't specifically go out and say, SONYMA would like to come to your event. But once we've attended an event, an elected official, we continuously outreach to them at least twice a year.
Is that something that we could look into?
Absolutely.
In terms of taking the initiative, saying to, if you like what people say, we have people who be more than happy to come to your events, tell your constituency about home ownership opportunity.
Absolutely. We didn't initially have the staffing, but recently, I would say within the past 4 to 5 months, we now have a person who's dedicated to community outreach, and that can certainly be something that we're doing on a regular basis to all elected officials.
Great. Super helpful.
Okay.
Thank you. Got a question?
Thank you very much.
Not too fast. When we approved the additional funds to the budget for the SONYMA website, there were no gauges on where people were dropping out or what pages they were clicking on. Has that been fixed? And then also, what metrics are you using in the marketing side of it to gauge the success rate of the marketing metrics?
So it's not as detailed or granular as we would like, but I think that we are able to tell where the folks coming to our website are coming from, where they are. We get a monthly report from our vendor, our marketing vendor, on that type of thing. We can tell what pages they go to, how many. It is hard for us to sort of connect the dots on, they looked at our website and have they ultimately submitted an application because of John Smith browsed our website today, and John Smith is the single person who's made an application, at least not from a technical standpoint. 8 months ago, we integrated a feature onto our website where folks can request program information. And so we have that name. And we now compare it to our reservation. But that's relatively new, so I can't tell you, right? That is doing a complete match, but it's something that we're attempting to do.
So we are tracking the total clicks, the total sessions, the total page views, and the total view users. And Agnelli, who runs that side of the house, has sent us, in fact, a comparison for fiscal year 2022 and for the quarter in fiscal 2023 through July. Numbers of each of those categories now, James.
Because they weren't available in 2020.
They were not. Correct.
Good. Within question, could we, this is super discussion. Thank you very much for giving us the insight about your sites, social media marketing. But unfortunately, we're a little behind today and we have some special guests that are here. But I want to suggest that if, see how members feel about this, that, it's September, maybe December, November. Could we have another discussion with you about this, about just advertising, marketing, promotion, the community outreach, I think, working with elected officials, that's Board's point, super interesting ideas, and we want to help you as much as possible with that outreach. So can we bring this issue, up in a future meetings, like, later this fall?
Yeah, we do an update on overall outreach efforts that we do. A little more comprehensive.
And that regard, because time is nobody's friend. The organization, I think, is called Black and Hispanic, Asian, Black Caucasus. There's a polyglot operation at this point, but they have an annual event in February in Albany. It's like weekend, August weekend. It's a whole weekend.
Yes,
we
go to
Where they are. I think you guys
I was there, presented about it.
How did that go?
It's awesome, and now we are better.
Yield from it at all?
So the first year that I went, we didn't really have a way to measure the result, but now we do. Right? Because we asked folks, how did you find out about it? And they're able to do that right on our website when they do our reservation.
Something like every post or something like that. Some point.
We have a table and there are round tables where we presented.
Great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the questions.
Anna, we're going to go into executive session.
Yes.
Diane, if you can help us out here, if everybody is all right with this, we do have some guests from ESD here today. And everyone's pressed for time. So we wanted to go to executive session now, have the time now with our guests from ESD. And then we have some administrative duties when they leave that we do need to vote on, like budget and so on. But again, to accommodate them, because they're here, right?
Yes, they're here and they have a
So
time.
let's go with that. If everyone's okay with that, then please, Diana, take us in.
Yes, I will ask for a motion and a second to go into executive session pursuant to section 105F of the open meetings law to discuss the financial, credit, or employment history of a particular corporation. Motion and second. Okay.
I move second.
Okay. We are in executive session.
Say it
Alex, you okay? I will. Yes, I will. Okay, so let's just go. I ask for a motion and second from each board member to go back into public session.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Great. Now we're back. We are now back in public session, and I think we're going to regroup with, Ken, I'll let it to you. Are we back on the administrative budget? No.
Thank you, Diana. Thank you for bringing us back. Thanks, everyone, for participation in the executive session, which was super helpful. And to be continued, sure, and also for joining us now as we wrap up public session, with the recording going on the record. What I'd like to do in the interest of time is bundle, someone used that word earlier with respect to our project, in Rochester to bundle our sort of administrative items at the end of our agenda. And if we could do it in one vote, if people are comfortable with that, then we could get, Frank call this long meeting and adjourn it. So we have the administrative, we have to do these things, the administrative budget request.
Could we just, Ken, just to interrupt you, I'm sorry. Just, we should just note that in executive session, no votes were taken. No action was taken.
That the minutes need to reflect that it was informational purposes only and no votes were taken. Thank you very much for mentioning that. And again, what I would propose is that we consider several items together and vote them at once, and obviously give directors a chance to ask questions should they have any. But we have for under our consideration the proposed administrative budget requests and financial plans for FY24 that we went through the committee when Daryl Johnson sat at this table, 45 minutes ago. We have an item proposal for several compensation adjustments. In English, I call that a raise, but for senior vice presidents, it's also been reviewed. We have an item, we have those two items and 6 informational items. And then we have projects. And Alex, do we want to do a vote for the administrative items and then a separate vote for the projects together?
Yeah, I was thinking,
do the whole thing.
I was thinking that, so the SONYMA board members heard the budget presentation. And the other item that's administrative is these compensation adjustments. Which is the materials, and it was voted out by the MBBA board and the HFA board. You may have been here for that. You guys got here on time and we weren't delayed.
That's the standard 3%.
The standard 3%
approved by the
approved by DOB, consistent with other agencies. And so if we could have a vote on just the budget and the senior officer compensation first, we then will move to Mike's items.
Oh, the project.
Yeah. So,
all right, everybody okay with that?
I was thinking that family might enter Tommy too.
I don't know what's that.
Senator from Alabama.
Oh.
Let's
150 major appointments in the military.
Oh.
I'm not gonna
Don't do.
I'm not gonna do that.
No, we. All right, Diana. We need our staff, and they need their soldiers. Diana.
I'm gonna do the two together. Now before the SONYMA board are resolutions that were transmitted in connection with these two items. The first is the resolution approving the administrative budget request and financial plans for fiscal year 2024. Secondly is the resolution approving compensation adjustments for senior vice presidents. Assuming the first and second previously recorded, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motions are carried and the resolutions adopted. Mike, we turn it over, I guess, to you now.
Yeah, so we have Mike at and it's got 10, 11, and 12, actually.
And 13. And 13.
4 projects, Mike, for SONYMA mortgage insurance, correct?
Correct.
Alex, what's the best way to do this? Mike kind of does a headline for each one.
I think, yeah, I mean,
there were 3 HFA loans, and the 4th loan is CPC first mortgage with a substantial HFA participating loan program, second mortgage.
that was a 35 East Mars project that HFA approved.
Anybody have any questions on approving mortgage insurance for these 4 projects? One thing, if you look at the projects, assume everybody has the materials. Mike is here to answer questions. I'll just sort of remind us, I guess, of them. 10 is the Center City Courtyard project in Dutchess County. Again, SONYMA 100% mortgage insurance on a $3 million HFA loan. 11 is the same thing, 100% mortgage insurance on about $6 million loan for Mary the Queen Senior Apartments. We reviewed that earlier. It's a really interesting conversion of a convent in Yonkers. And the third one is 100% mortgage insurance on a $5 million loan for Parliament Fairfield, 2 different projects, City of Rochester.
Otherwise known as the Parliament Funkadelic.
That's what you like to call it. And the 5th is the one that's CPC funded, about $6 million CPC loan for this project on Morris Avenue in Buffalo. And Mike is here if anyone has any questions on those 4 projects. We talked earlier, thanks to James's question, about the NIF, how we're doing in terms of the mortgage recording tax and the surcharge. How we've got to be very careful with that moving forward. Obviously, we have less capacity. But if no further questions, why don't we, Diana, do a resolution for all 4? Yep. That would certainly make, Mike Friedman happy guy.
Okay, your dream will come true. I can do it. So here we go. Now before the Sunny May Mortgage Insurance Committee are resolutions that were transmitted in connection with this item. And I'm going to read for 4 items. The resolution of the Sunny May Mortgage Insurance Committee approving 100% mortgage insurance on a $3,020,000 HFA permanent first mortgage loan for the Center City Courtyard project in Dutchess County. Second project, same 100% mortgage insurance on a $5,970,000 HFA permanent first mortgage loan for the Mary the Queen Senior Apartments project in Yonkers, Westchester County. The third project, again, 100% mortgage insurance on a $5,225,000 HFA permanent first mortgage loan for the Parliament Fairfield project, City of Rochester, Monroe County. And the fourth and final in this lineup, 100% mortgage insurance on a $5,700,000 CPC permanent first mortgage loan for the 35 East Morris Avenue project, City of Buffalo, Erie County. Assuming the first and second previously entered for the Mortgage Insurance Committee, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried and the resolution adopted.
Diana, thank you very much for your flexibility and doing that in such a clear and helpful way. I think at this point I can say to everyone's great relief, there being no further business for the Sunny May board, Diana will now ask for motions and seconds to adjourn today's meeting.
So moved.
Okay.
Okay, assuming the first and second previously entered for the Sunny May board, all in favor of adjourning, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion is carried. Sunny May meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody. I wish everyone a pleasant rest of day. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Diana. I feel better.
Mike.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Sorry that we're.
Off the record.
Yes.
question.
He's at the end of a quarantine.
Actually, upstairs in her office.
I'm gonna walk around.
He's upstairs in her
I'll
office.
meet you halfway.
Same time she stayed up there,
Oh, I know.
He's in the building. I think she's on day 5. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
speak, Bernie?
So it's all invested in treasuries. And we're a substantial amount of interest income.